Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blue Thunder Pod's Turnbuckle Time Machine. This week, we are tackling the Great American Bash from 2004. Infamously terrible, and this week, actually accurately terrible pay-per-view. This took place initially on June 27th of 2004, emanating from Norfolk, Virginia, at the Norfolk Scope Arena, I think.
Yep.
It just said Norfolk Scope, but that sounds stupid, so I put arena on there.
Fuck.
No, and Cole actually kind of pronounces it like the people of Norfolk, I think.
Right.
It's weird. 6,500 in attendance.
In a building that holds 10,253.
Similar issue on Dynamite this week. Let's not book an 18,000-seat arena in a city that doesn't get Dynamite on TV. How about that, Tony?
I think it's a fair ask.
238,000 pay-per-view buys for this piece of shit. This is wild.
Wow.
This texted a friend of ours prior to recording today because he was one of the few people I know, more than one, that bailed out on wrestling completely after WWE was the only option in town, and then they split brands.
Yeah.
This is like, to me, I'll get your thoughts in a moment, but
to
me, this is exactly a perfect example of why you should not split your brands unless you are really ready to.
Yeah.
But what were your thoughts, Dave, on the Great American Bash 04?
Pretty much what you've said so far. It was bad. The show sucked. The promo, there wasn't anything good. Like, the video packages made me not excited, and the video package is all I had to go off of. I like to not research these at first. I like to get fresh eyes on them, and I don't think I ever saw this paper.
I didn't see it when it happened, for sure.
For the first, right?
There's like two wrestlers. I'm like, who are those people?
Yeah, I even have a couple times in here. I'm like, and whoever the fuck this is.
Yeah,
and like how you put it, the brand split was rough. After the fact, after I did watch it, I did go do a little bit of researching. This was the third WWE pay-per-view in 6 weeks.
Oh, wow. Well, were they doing back and forths? Did they do like a Raw prior to this?
They would do every 2 weeks. I don't know what the timeline on that was, but 2 weeks prior, there was a Raw pay-per-view. Then there was Great American Bash, and 2 weeks after that, there was So, for example, this was on the 27th. June 13th was Bad Blood, which was a Raw exclusive.
Which also garbage, I think.
Here's the card for that, though.
This is pre-network, too. Because this wasn't an HD even.
No.
So people were paying $50 a pop for this dog shit.
240,000
people paid $50.
It's not a lot.
That's a good pay-per-view buy number, actually. I mean, it always sounds small when you're looking at it compared to like TV ratings. That's like a good pay-per-view buy number today.
That was right after the invasion, so people were really hard pressed for wrestling. Which I don't think TNA was up and rocking and rolling yet.
TNA has only ever had,
but this was it.
Their group.
Yeah. So this was.
They shouldn't be advertising their other pay-per-views with this because they did an ad for SummerSlam in the middle of this, and I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of people I'd rather be watching than these people right now.
So speaking of the other people I'd rather be watching who were on the Bad Blood show, this was the card. I'll run it down really fast. Edge and Chris Benoit defeated La Resistance to retain the tag team titles. Chris Jericho fought Tyson Tomko.
Wow.
Randy Orton defeated Shelton Benjamin in an IC title match.
Oh, shit.
Trish Stratus defeated Victoria, Lita, and Gail Kim to win the women's title.
What a stark difference between that and the weird... Well, we'll talk about it.
We got a little dip coming next. Eugene defeats Jonathan Coachman.
You know what? Nick
Dinsmore was fucking great.
I liked Eugene.
Yeah.
I thought he did a good job with it. It wouldn't be appropriate to do that today.
Nope.
But compared to most of the shit we saw on this pay-per-view here, that was nothing. That was like
he was
totally
the first
fine,
guy I saw that did other people's finishers, which is there's a whole company that does that.
There's
the
entire
cool.
indie scene, and then a company based on the indie scene.
If you don't do a rock bottom and a Stone Cold Stunner and a FU, like you're
a Canadian Destroyer, everybody on Earth is. I saw one guy, Petey Williams, the only person I ever saw do a Canadian Destroyer for 20 years.
Right
now, everybody that has wrestled like in the last 20 years uses it as a setup
You
move.
have to. It's replaced the clothesline.
It is.
Next was Chris Benoit defeating Kane to retain the World Heavyweight
damn.
title. This was right after WrestleMania
That's
20.
2004 Kane, too.
And Triple H defeats Shawn Michaels.
Oh, okay. What the hell? And
that was all available.
I just watched Discount Gangrel beat Bob Holly.
Yeah.
What the fuck? It's the same price. Same price. 240,000 people bought
and
this
that
thing.
was on a who gives a shit bad blood pay-per-view.
Which I'm
a June pay-per-view.
One of the bad bloods I know was like a historically. It's like this was one of them. It's always on the lists for like worst pay-per-views. This Great American Bash. They're one of the bad bloods, and then the other one that I off the top of my head that I know is the December to Dismember attempt they made at ECW pay-per-view. Yeah. That's the one that's always number one on everybody's list. I've never watched it. We'll probably have to do that one eventually. But I wasn't ready for that yet. No. We had a lot of wrestling to watch this week, being having been off because of illness recently. So I don't think I could handle the worst pay-per-view ever. You know what? This one though, I will say this: I got a weird sensation watching it, and you tell me if you feel similarly or if you don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. The stuff that's like politically taboo. Now, when you go back and watch anything, comedy, wrestling, whatever, you go back in time, it's like a little I hate the word cringy, but just because what that word has become, but in its truest sense, like you watch that shit and you're like, shit, you cringe a little bit. Mm-hmm. I have a harder time watching stuff like particularly from this era exactly than I do even stuff from like the 70s when they're just straight up being like openly racist and misogynist and awful. Yeah. This, I think it's because it's closer to us time-wise. You're like watching this semi-modern thing. And you're like, what is wrong with these people? Like,
you're not wrong. I was hiding behind my hands a couple times.
So it's not just me. Because like you hear old John Wayne,
some of these
interviews where he's talking about smacking women around or whatever. And like, you're like, all right, yeah, that's awful. But it was 1971. Like you watch this and it's like, it's not HD, but it's close to it.
Sure.
And it's people.
Also too, all these guys are still.
It was my pig dog.
What do you snort? Rocky snorting?
I think he sometimes wakes himself up by doing a big snore because he's a pig dog.
But he's looking at his own tail. Everyone, so like how John Wayne was like that back in the day. John Wayne ain't here anymore. Everyone on this show is still
like on TV.
Yeah, they're
now.
still active. So you're just like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Why'd you say that?
Why are you acting like a rapist?
Like, nobody was off limits. It was like it was very like women heavy though.
This was like I felt like I was watching some kind of mail order fetish video or something. Yeah. I'm throwing away my line about my only thing that I had about this women's match is that it felt like I'm just watching like a Vince McMahon mail order fetish video. It didn't feel like a wrestling match. But this whole pay-per-view was kind of like,
it wasn't
this
good.
is a weird fetish video. Like it doesn't feel like a wrestling show.
No.
Also, like with through the lens of Vince McMahon is a horrible like SA, whatever. I can bleep rapist if I have to. That's what he is. He's a rapist. Knowing specifically, reading those documents, knowing what he did, the dominance thing. Yeah. Oh my God, that just makes your skin crawl watching this stuff because it's all like weird power, forcing women to do things they're obviously not super comfortable with.
They apparently aren't smart either. Women are not smart. I learned that in this pay-per-view.
Yeah, all portrayed as like children, like sexualized children.
Yeah,
it's crazy
with cosmetic surgery.
All of them, like every one of them. I guess on Raw, there was. I mean, Gail Kim existed. God bless her, by the way. That poor lady she had a rough carrying the torch for actual women's wrestling on like North American TV for like forever, 20 years.
Yeah. So, do you want to start the show?
Yeah. So speaking of weirdly sexualized stuff,
really quickly. I'm sorry. You're starting the show from the top with Tori Wilson.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Show opens with Tori Wilson doing the Pledge of Allegiance while wearing a sexy Uncle Sam outfit, which I guess Spirit Halloween. I don't know where you get a sexy Uncle Sam, but they found one. And And then after Tori does the Pledge of Allegiance weirdly, because I guess Great American Bash, this whole show is USA themed. Also, that juxtaposed against some of the stuff that we see, it makes it extra weird. But yeah, Tori, Pledge of Allegiance in the top hat and like a crap top Uncle Sam thing, whatever. And then they cut the JBL, pretty much talking about how much he hates immigrants. God bless America. And my thought was, I'm sure that'll end well on this pay-per-view. I was not disappointed.
Right.
I know it was this open is so 2004.
Yeah, it was super tone deaf. The whole thing, his character. All right, I'm just gonna get this out of the way right in the beginning.
Yeah,
JBL, the character, what a goddamn heel.
Oh, absolutely.
What a perfect heel. A pompous white Republican.
Yeah,
like if they could have reinstated a character for the last 10 years.
Well, there's a big problem with that because the way politics are in America today, you get half the crowd to be probably cheering for him.
Yes,
but it's a good I made this note during the match, but it doesn't matter because you're talking about it now. I can talk about it now. Do you think JBL ever like had an inward, like a looking inside himself thought and was like, because he did the thing on Fox News where he was a money consultant guy, so he very clearly was that guy in real life.
Yeah.
Do you ever think he had the thought, like, I am portraying myself now after years of being Bradshaw. I'm being myself on TV.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks I'm a fucking dick. Maybe I'm a dick in real life.
What does Stone Cold Steve Austin say? The best characters are yourself turned up to 11.
Yeah, but like his self turned up to 11, everybody despised.
Yeah, which made him an awesome heel.
He was incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I hated him. I wanted to see him lose every match.
Yes.
Even back then, I wasn't super invested, but I was watching, and I remember like, I hate you.
Right.
You're a douchebag. I want to see you lose.
Absolutely.
I didn't even know what a douchebag he was in real life back then.
Right.
Like now I know that kind of is the guy he was.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think he could have had any introspection about it because I don't think he changed ever. He kept bullying like Mauro Ranallo 10 years later.
Yeah.
Whatever, like being that guy.
No, he doesn't seem like let's talk about your feelings and have
or think about my own behavior.
Or, general accountability for what you've done in the past. Dude, I mean, the fact that he's like rich, like Texas Republican, and could this be more perfect? He's feuding with a Mexican champion.
Oh, and doesn't even really hide the fact that he's just basically saying, I hate you because you're a Mexican immigrant, even though Eddie Guerrero's from El Paso, Texas.
I was trying to
born and raised.
I was trying to find something about this character, kind of looking around the pay-per-view, just so I had some context to see what was going on. I wish I remembered exactly what happened, but there was a segment where JBL was like paying... He had like a Mexican guy in the crowd, and he paid him to do something,
like a bunch of stuff,
like $1 Million Man style, right?
Yes.
You know what it was?
No, I remember him doing like this is one of the few things that I do like. It stands out in my memory from this era, particularly was the JBL Eddie Guerrero thing.
Yeah,
one because it's Eddie Guerrero and is in like precious few things that we have from him, and he's incredible. Mm-hmm. And then that match where, from the previous pay-per-view to this one, where Eddie won the title and he bladed too deep. At first, when I looked at the rundown of this, I was like, oh, is this the Eddie
I thought it was,
and I was
too.
like, shit, it's a bull rope match
Yeah.
instead. Like,
I thought that was the same match, though. I'm waiting for the screen to go gray because it got too violent.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have to go surfing the torrent seas if they did an edit.
Did they cut this out?
But... I remember it stands out in my memory because of Eddie Guerrero, but also because it was like, oh, this dude is just like basically saying, he says in this show on a promo, you people, a bunch of times. Like, he's not even hiding it. He also like, he does a weird thing where he says like a word or two with a German accent. I don't even notice that, which really stood out to me. I'm like, was that intentional?
Well, wasn't he the guy in Germany? He was the guy in Germany that did the thing.
Yeah.
And like, he wasn't with the company there for a minute.
They didn't hold back with this.
No.
They went full bore with and you know what? I praised the 2004 WWE Universe because they were like, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. Yeah. We love Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
And with wrestling crowds, you don't always know that's especially like this. These people are like drooling over this weird, gross sexual stuff, and
they're also on a naval bit. Not fuck is that's where the Navy is.
Yeah.
So like you run the risk here of like this pro-American guy.
100%.
In today that would be a problem. Back then, no, they clearly define. Also, it's fucking Eddie Guerrero. Like who's not cheering Eddie Guerrero?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like he was so good as a bad guy, we wouldn't let him be a bad guy ever again.
We were like, and also cheating is fine.
Yeah.
Don't stop cheating because you're great at that. We'll still just keep cheering you.
Absolutely.
Please keep cheating.
Put it on a T-shirt. We're buying it. Lie, cheat, and steal. Yeah,
we want
totally.
you, like MJF kind of aped it, 25 years later or whatever. But until then, he was the only guy in history where we were like, no, don't turn face.
No.
We'll just cheer you. Just fine.
Yeah.
Just keep doing what you're doing.
Whatever creatively you want to do, we're here for.
You're awesome. But JBL was a great foil for that.
Yeah.
Like it gets filtered through my like distaste for the man, and like my knowledge that he probably believes a lot of the shit that he's spewing when he's doing these promos and stuff. But it actually made me like care about a match on the show
because you didn't. It wasn't like go away heat. It wasn't.
No,
apathetic
I wanted to see Eddie
heat.
beat his ass. Like,
it was like a guy that actually does the and like it was relatable heat. Like he was saying stuff where like that's upsetting to most people who hear it.
Yes.
And like the people who aren't upset by it, like no,
I don't want them on my side anyway.
No,
so like
right. So that's how you be a goddamn heel. It really is.
Absolutely.
It really is.
I always JBL as a in-ring performer too. I was actually a big proponent of his when they were when he was still an acolyte and the APA always pounding ass. Greatest wrestling t-shirt of all time. But I was like, man, this guy's super underrated in the ring. And then when he became JBL, he started getting all the accolades for his in-ring stuff. And I thought that actually it wasn't as good anymore because he didn't work. He still worked stiff, but not as stiff, not like Bob Holly stiff anymore. Yeah. Which is probably good. It's probably a good thing. But I don't think he was quite as good after the transition to JBL in the ring. And that's when he started getting the praise because the wrestling god and everything. Yeah. But he was still good. He was still very good.
His finisher was stiff as fuck.
Yeah.
But also too, he got a little doughier.
He did.
And I think part of the reason to not like him is like he doughed up a bit. He was catapulted right to the top.
It's a great point. It probably added to that character that he wasn't as didn't look like a wrestler.
No,
as much.
he was just like, who the fuck
is
like
a douchebag.
Yeah, he just looked like a tough prick.
Talking head on Fox
that
News
goes
guy.
to a bar that wears the polo of the company he works for.
Exactly.
That likes to buy rounds for girls that are 21.
Shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it.
And like if he's going to see like a cover band, he's giving him like $200 to play Freebird.
Yeah.
Like I know this guy. I've met this guy.
Yeah. I feel like you definitely have.
I've looked
you have
very specifically looking at a guy.
You have a name that you could probably give me if I
know what company's that law firm has a thing or two coming to him. But so we'll get to JBL we
got a little more talk about that one.
But first, different title match.
Well, I will say it's Taz and Michael Cole.
Oh yes,
Taz good back then, not as good as he is currently.
He's different. He's good for a different reason.
And his voice, I noticed, and then it was irritating me because I'm so used to. I listen to him every week. Obviously, Dynamite, multiple times usually a week. His voice is like 2 octaves higher. I know it's because he's 20 years younger, and that makes sense. Everyone's voice gets lower, but I'm so familiar with current Taz voice that I was like, put some bass in your voice, Taz.
Yeah,
You're
it's like watching Jim Ross.
High-pitched Jones over here.
It's like watching old Jim Ross before he had his Bell's palsy.
Yeah, but that gets made up for because Jim Ross was fantastic back then.
I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm just saying like the passage of time.
Oh, sure, yeah. Like the what's the word that people use that I can't think of right now?
Broccolini.
Not dissociative, but whatever. It makes you feel like you're kind of outside reality. Because you're like, I'm listening to Taz, this guy I listen to every week, and he's like up a little higher. And in my memory, like when he was cutting his ECW pay-per-views, 10 years before this, he was like bass voice Taz, but that's just the way that you remember it, I suppose.
He didn't say Jones a single time either.
No, he didn't, which was also a little weird.
Yeah.
It's like, no Yamback City, no Jones, like none of his stuff. No. He did say some funny stuff, but it was obvious that he was going to be a great color guy, but he just wasn't quite as consistent as he has. Again, 20 years of experience, obviously, that's going to be better. Yeah. Plus, he's sitting next to Excalibur and Tony Schiavone now.
He's got plenty to lean on.
So, you want to go into the first match of the
United States Championship match?
U.S. title match. It is a 4-way, although the way it played out, it really was only a 2-way the whole time.
So stupid.
John Cena versus Booker T versus Rene Dupree versus RVD, Rob Van Dam. For John Cena is the defending champ at this time. Cena, it's the word life, basic thugonomics, cringiest version of Cena, who is so over, so wildly over at this point. Like, this was way before the, let's go Cena sucks. They're like,
Bouye was not invented until WrestleMania 22.
Yeah.
And this is right after WrestleMania 20. He's over like fucking Rover.
He can do no wrong.
No.
And he's very dislikable here.
Yeah.
And the crowd's like, we love you. And I'm like, he's a douchebag.
Yeah.
He's doing like a weird, like, quote unquote, like black accents that made me a little uncomfortable. He's doing his raps. I know he does that. He still kind of does that when he comes out and does his rap stuff.
Do you want to hear the rap?
Go for it. Yeah.
So he says, tonight Kurt Angle really wants me to lose. This is no joke. But I'm still here and ready to kick ass up in Norfolk. Bah. Crowd goes crazy after every verse.
Yeah.
He's trying to eliminate me. Yo, that's his plan. But tonight I'm going to beat 3 dudes just like Kurt Angle's hand. It's a good line.
Yeah.
It's a good line.
One of 3 homophobic shots he took.
Crowd pops for the homophobia.
They love that.
Yeah, they
stuff.
love homophobic humor. The only reason Kurt ever made this match a 4-way is so Lumpy and Luther can start in with some foreplay.
Yeah, so there's number 2.
Yeah. I don't get the Lumpy thing.
I didn't either. My note was, I don't know what that means, except that it's like, I don't like gay people.
No. It's apparently, yeah. So I scouted RVD, and that Rolling Thunder stunt thought he was finishing it differently than he did. Tonight, only thing Van Dam rolling is blunts.
The only exclusionary.
That rap stated the obvious.
Yeah, he just said RVD smokes weed. Yeah, no shit, dude.
Yeah, we get it. He was High Times Man of the Year a lot before this match.
He's got weed on his what do you call it? Airbrushed onto all his gear. Like we're
no suspension of disbelief here. I ain't worried about Booker T. That dude hangs around where the cross-dressed and hookers be.
So his anti-trans joke also threw in there. So you got 3 in 1.
This is when he was Boys with Goldust, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. He's gone way downhill since G.I. Bro. He's just a small-time sucker like a knee-high hoe. It's a good line.
Yeah.
It's a good line.
That's solid. I mean, that's, through the lens of 2024 or whatever.
Yeah.
It could be a little offensive, but you probably still fly today.
Right.
That one you could actually get away with in today's.
That's just fun wordplay.
And it was pretty solid.
Small time sucker, knee high ho. They're small. I don't know.
It's
what made me laugh.
You had some time though, and one bar. You could do better than that, John. Maybe you can't, but
he's writing the rap in the a la a WWE match, especially on this card. You don't have to have a lot of it be anything.
Yeah.
You just need to just pop it. It's like how you decorate your living room when you're married, and it's just like, oh, we can have a very beige or like neutral pops of
just
color.
Have a
pops of color.
Pops of
color.
Homophobic.
Yeah.
And those got big pops too.
Yeah, big pops. Yeah, especially in a Navy town. I don't know what that meant. And Renee with his dance, he's trying to be me. He can't see me. That punk is more of a bitch than Fifi. Fifi's the dog.
Yeah.
Fifi's his dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was fair.
That's just like women suck. You're like a woman. It's not again, not as aggressively over the top. Was just saying that Rene Dupree, who's super fucking jacked.
He looked good.
For 20 years old.
20.
I'm like, what happened to this guy?
Yeah.
And then I looked it up and it was like, no, nothing. He just kind of faded.
Well, he's got a podcast
how?
now, and
no, he doesn't.
He didn't. No one else has
wrestling.
No one has a wrestling podcast besides us. He has a show where he talks about something else, and then maybe once in a while wrestling. He does not. He has a lot on his mind, and he does not like John Cena. He's one of the ones that does not.
Yeah,
like
I can see that.
There are a handful.
Seems like Cena is a pretty okay guy now.
Yeah.
Especially through this era and has come up kind of a bully.
Maybe, yeah.
Came off as
him, Orton, Undertaker.
Orton found God or Jesus, like HBK or something, because he was we talked about it before. Yeah. He was the shit in your gym bag guy, and now he's like elder statesman Kevin Owens loves.
My
notes on his rap, by the way, were just Cena's appropriated accent is making me uncomfortable. Multiple homophobic gay jokes, anti-trans one for Booker T, more gay jokes for Renee. What a hero.
And here comes one of the gay jokes for Renee.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
Oh, no, it's a good lead-in. But the Navy's in the house, and that's why Renee is scheming. Like, you didn't see this coming a mile away.
Yep.
He gets really overexcited when he's surrounded by the seamen.
It's a little bit of a stretch.
Now you all know the champ is here, so we run in the show, and if you all don't know by now, we didn't want you to know. The weakest ending.
Didn't know what that meant.
And then he yelled. And then he yelled "Word Life."
Yeah, Word Life.
And then Rob Van Dam comes out.
Everybody loved him.
Yeah.
And RVD, like RVD's like, oh, he's actually likable. Why is everybody cheering for John Cena? I mean, whatever. You get momentum. Yeah. It happens.
This also made me realize how much better, if you're going to do a rap to the ring, to have a beat behind it.
Yeah. Yes.
Like Max Caster.
That's the move.
Like if
Caster's a much better lyricist too.
Yeah.
Like, even his stinkers are better than this.
And he's like, and the brevity, like, and Max Casters are like half to a third of the length of this.
Yes.
Like get in, get out.
But he does them like weekly or whatever.
But he does them weekly.
Yeah.
That's the thing, like, and he's way better. I mean, this is trash. And to your point,
yes,
if he had time, this is a pay-per-view.
Did you ever hear the story about how Cena got this character? It just is ridiculous to me. Because he was ruthless aggression guy up until prototype, and then ruthless aggression guy. And then the story is that it was on like a bus or some travel thing. Stephanie McMahon overheard him like freestyling, and she was like, "That's great. We have to put you on TV doing that." And that's how I got this character. I'm like, but he's shit at freestyling. So like, why? How could this have been the thing that Stephanie? I'm like, oh, she must just be like the whitest person that's ever lived.
Oh, you mean you mean the rich girl from Connecticut was
Stephanie.
Was auditing the rap talent?
But like, loved his nonsense so much that she was like, I need to put you on TV doing this. You're like a revelation. Like, it's trash.
It's bad.
I mean, whatever. It got super over, and it made him a huge.
Cena.
Yeah, he's John Cena.
Yeah.
So like,
he was just on the Oscars. Like,
exactly.
Mostly naked.
Like, do you really want to pay for this? How does that go? Do you really want to? Oh, I'm losing it. It's my favorite. It's from his TV show that was incredible.
John Cena's?
Yeah. You never watched it? The spinoff of it's Do You Really Want to Taste It? It's got the best theme song ever. It's the spinoff of Suicide Squad, like the new Suicide Squad.
Oh, I haven't seen
Peacemaker. It's like the best thing DC's done. You don't even have to.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. It's hilarious.
Okay.
Like incredibly well written.
All right.
It's James Gunn, and he's amazing. He's an amazing like comedic writer.
Yeah.
And Cena's awesome in that, and it's got the greatest theme song ever. Hopefully, we won't get like a copyright strike for my terrible rendition of "Do you really want to taste that?"
If you do get a copyright strike, then feather in your cap that it has been picked up by AI.
Yeah,
it means you got a good voice, sir. RVD comes out, Renee comes out with the dog Fifi, then Booker T comes out. Booker T doesn't age.
Wasn't Fifi white? I was like, did Fifi die and they replaced Fifi with a different Fifi? It could just be like, Mandela effect, my brain wrong thing. It's Rene Dupree, whatever. I barely remember him, but I just thought they had a white dog.
Like the French dog would be like.
I just realized you said that La Resistance was on the other show. Did they have 3 anti-France characters going at one time?
Who was on? Sylvain Grenier?
Yeah, so they had multiple.
And Rob Conway.
And Rene Dupree's not even French.
Yeah, he is. Look at his tights.
He's French-Canadian.
Look at his tights.
It's my other question is, and I lived through this, and I still never really understood, why did everybody hate French people so much?
Because they weren't American.
But it was specifically for France. Like, it wasn't the rest of Europe. They're like politically the same, basically, as the rest of Europe.
Because everyone
we are allies with France.
Everyone that ever played French people, like especially in wrestling, it's always like up here, like.
Well, yeah, they make them like froofy, and back in the day they made them like gay seeming, which everybody hated back then, wrestling fans.
Oh, you mean back in 2004 when it was getting huge pops and raps?
Exactly. But like, why did we decide that France was that?
In wrestling or overall?
in wrestling. I mean, it's very specific in wrestling. Vince clearly hates France.
Yeah.
But I remember there was like like Freedom Fries around 9/11 and stuff. People were talking about France all the time. I'm like, France didn't have fucking anything to do with anything. Yeah. Why are we talking about France at all? Like,
I don't know.
It was like it was the thing. It was a big thing. Like, we hate France. never really understood it. Back then, I was probably afraid to be like, hey, why don't we eat friends? Like, talking shit about, I don't understand. I thought it was like Saudi guys.
I love French fries.
Like, yeah, they have great food and like they're good at sex. That's all I know about the French.
Oh, he said that comes up later.
Oh, yes, he very much does. Are you kidding? Yeah. Like, there's sex involved in everything they do on this show.
The promos on this show were, we'll get to it after the match, but Rene Dupree winks at what Sully just talked about. I don't have any match notes aside from, like you had alluded to, that two guys were in the ring at all times, which is typical multi-man
This was
behavior.
egregious.
But when the two guys weren't in the ring, the other two guys were standing outside watching.
Yeah, like spectators.
But I'm thinking that's the correct move.
But they also were rotating in like it was like okay, it's your turn now, and it was these guys are pretty good. Even Dupree's 20, pretty solid in the ring here, especially for that age. I mean, he's very clearly the weakest, and well, Cena's pretty weak too. But he's okay. He's like a decent worker.
He's serviceable.
But these guys that felt weird, and you're right, you would if you're going to be outside just biding your time. And Taz was good at putting that over, by the way. He's like, Booker T's, he's doing the right thing here. Because Booker T's standing in center of the hard cam on the outside of the ring, just staring at John Cena, like beating up Rene Dupree for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But then they would just rotate out, and then the other guys would like roll in. Booker T's incredible, by the way. Like, he's one of those guys that I Sting adjacent, where I remembered not liking him back in the day. I think because I was such a WWE like cultist back then. Right. Booker T used a couple like the Rock's moves, so I was like, oh, he's discount Rock. But now I go back and I'm like, oh my God, Booker T was a much better wrestler than the Rock. Like, he's great in ring wrestling. Yeah, he was. And as much as I love RVD, I think Booker T was the best, like, overall in-ring performer. RVD's obviously the most spectacular.
Yeah, but
like all of the stuff that I always talk about, caring about now, the in between the moves, and like, he's way better than all other three guys in this match. Like at those things.
Yes,
I'm always like way more impressed by Booker T than I expect to be, because I think I was a little bit more like shut off to the idea of WCW. I just back then.
That's how we were
18,
conditioned.
19, I was like, yeah, that's the garbage one.
Yeah.
But really, he was great. He was like really great.
Yeah. And when he got to WWE, they kind of like middled him.
Oh, they killed it. And they also
hard.
gave Triple H like the I'm a Nazi, I hate black people, and then Triple H won that feud. Yeah. Like, oh, good Lord. Yeah. How did that?
Yeah.
But my notes from the in-ring here, and whatever, it's John Cena doing his John Cena moves. Rene Dupree, I don't understand what that he does, like a defensive drill. But he just has his palms turned up. Like, it's basically what I teach my daughter in basketball practice, how you shuffle your feet playing defense. He does that back and forth a little bit, but he just has his palms up like I'm a little prissy boy or whatever. Yeah. But he's like 280 of like stone muscle, so it doesn't really read as that to me. It's just like he's just doing a funny thing where he's bouncing back and forth.
You see the reaction you're having right now?
Yeah,
that's why he does it.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
that's why what you're feeling.
That makes sense. I mean, like I said, I thought he was a pretty impressive performer overall for a 20-year-old.
Yeah,
he doesn't look like a 20-year-old at all here.
No, no, and he does not look like he's just eating a bunch of chicken either.
No.
That is a big boy.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Like that part of it. Everybody did that stuff.
But 20's like...
But 20, just his feel for wrestling.
I thought he looked good.
In general, I was like, I thought he looked much better.
Good.
Most 20-year-olds, like, even if they're good, they have, like, even Nick Wayne has, like, some in-between the moves stuff where it's like, you can work on that. Dupree seemed to be, like, pretty on top of that kind of stuff, which is usually the stuff that young, like, prospect kind of guys are not great with.
Yeah.
I was just impressed by him.
Yeah.
And I was a little surprised then when I looked at his history, and I was like, oh man, he must have had some, I didn't see personal demons or anything. It was just like, he just never really.
He might have rubbed somebody the wrong way.
Okay, maybe Super Cena really was a bully.
Yeah.
I mean, who's the other guy? The tough enough guy.
Alex Riley.
Alex Riley.
But that's because he was allegedly, Cena had eyes for Alex Riley's then girlfriend, Mickie James.
What an American hero.
Yeah.
I like your girlfriend, so I'm going to push you out of the company.
Yeah. Really quick. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no. It was on the match. The thing that stood out to me was RVD he was the first guy out, and the way that he got eliminated was he hit the 5-star frog splash.
Twice.
And that somehow did so much damage to him that Cena just pinned him. And
he hit it on everybody. The first one he hit was on Rene Dupree and Booker T. They were laying side by side, and then he did one he didn't do it to all three guys because Cena pinned him, but then he did a solo one to Booker T, and Booker T might as well have been in like the other side of the building.
It was
it was
incredible.
Biggest,
Absolutely incredible.
He jumped so far.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
Like he did. I will say after the first one, the way he sold it, he always sells the ribs. And obviously this one, he sold it so much that he just got pinned without another move happening to him. But after he hit the first one, the way he sold the pain was he turned on his back and, kicked his feet back and forth like a little baby. It was very, very funny. I actually rewound it because I'm like, oh, look at RVD's little feet kicking up there.
What a wobby.
That was amusing. But yeah, that second one was like across the ring, essentially. It's the greatest frog splash.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Eddie Guerrero a ton. And
no, RVD has the best frog splash.
But RVD's greatest frog splash of all time. Like, it just is.
Just because Eddie Guerrero's he's the only one that everyone remembers as a wrestler from like 20 years ago because there's all the Three Amigos and shit like that, which is fine. Like,
I do think Eddie deserves the hype he gets. I don't think it's just because he died. I think he is that great.
You're right. And I'm not saying
just this move.
I'm not saying he doesn't deserve the love he gets, but like he doesn't have the best frog splash. Like in this specific case, you know.
And
I mean?
I remember thinking this then too, like in a world where RVD is an active performer, maybe don't use the frog splash.
Right.
Like anybody, because nobody can do it. Like nobody still ever has done it like him. Like Will Ospreay probably could if he decided to do it.
Yeah.
That's the only guy I can think of that probably could. Like
they got a better chance at getting the lowdown, which was a dope frog splash too. The D'Lo Brown.
Oh, that's a different move. I used to say start out just. The D'Lo Brown looked so much like a frog when he would do his frog splash that he riveted every time. Ribbit. And every time we watch Raw and D'Lo would do his move, I just go ribbit, and I would pop him always.
That's funny.
That's a different move though. That's like the arms between the legs frog splash, the D'Lo style frog splash. I don't consider that the same thing as what RVD.
It is in the same taxonomy as a frog splash.
True, but in practice, it doesn't. It looks like a totally different thing.
You're right.
Like D'Lo doesn't look like he never looked like he was trying to do the RVD thing. Everybody else doing a frog splash.
He never
looks
did
like
this before either.
Yeah, no,
that's part of it. You have to do that. It's
Eddie didn't do the. Dave is doing the shimmy for those just audio listeners. The Eddie Guerrero shimmy. Eddie didn't do it that much. People just started doing it now because it pops the crowds and
it gets an Eddie chant.
It gets the Eddie chant.
Yeah.
But Eddie didn't do it all that much.
No, I don't think during matches ever.
Yeah,
it was like a walk down the aisle thing.
He did it. I mean, he did it in the ring, I think a few times, but it wasn't like the Rock's eyebrow or something, which you would think today with the number of wrestlers that like doing the Eddie. I mean, whatever. He's a great dude, incredible wrestler. Everybody loved him, so I get that. But I do think people do it because of the pop, quite a bit.
Also, not the best frog splash. So yeah, Cena Schoolboys, RVD gets the first fall. Then Rene Dupree and Booker T double team Cena. That alliance quickly dissolves. And he starts delivering FUs, which is pre-attitude adjustment, which I forgot was a knock on Brock Lesnar's F5.
Yeah,
like this is
it's a way weaker move.
Yeah.
On the F5.
He does he doesn't fall down. He just stands there.
He
would have torn every muscle out of his lower back if he kept doing it that way.
If I was like play wrestling with my daughter and I was doing like a Death Valley driver onto the bed, the way that I would do it is how he does the FU.
Didn't look good.
It's exactly the same thing.
At all.
Yeah, it wouldn't look good if you're like paying to watch me play wrestle my daughter either. All I care about is that she didn't get hurt. That's what it looks like John Cena's doing too.
Anyone pays for that, you call the police right away.
Vince McMahon probably would have, judging on this pay-per-view and then things that we said about it.
Well, Vince McMahon's at your house. I mean, so yeah, he does it he does the FU to Rene Dupree, and then right away Booker T does a scissor kick on John Cena, but Booker T pins Rene Dupree and not the more over, stronger,
more
champion.
Dangerous opponent.
Yeah. And then the match turns into a one-on-one match, Booker T and John Cena, which was 9 minutes of $1 million dream rest hold.
Yeah.
It was one rest hold for ever and ever and ever.
And I don't think that's because Booker T got gassed.
No.
I think the prototype. Eating too many vitamins and not doing enough cardio. John Cena didn't get any better or worse. Like in 25 years or whatever it was.
When
he's the same in-ring guy here as he was in 2020.
He got better after he stopped caring about the title. Remember when like he was doing like backpack
He
stunners
got better
and shit?
as everything. Like I liked him more.
The U.S. title
than that.
scene is
I
when
mean,
you're like,
literally,
"What the fuck is this guy?"
he is the other part of. He's not the reason why, but he's the other part of my favorite WWE match of all time. You know, it's Money in the Bank 2011, but that's because of Punk. But that's what Cena was, and I think he was probably kind of this way too here. If you have a great dance partner, he's not going to ruin the match for you.
Right.
So like that guy can make it a great match, which like it happened there. It happened a few times with Cena.
Yeah.
I remember a Shinsuke Nakamura match that I was like, oh goddamn, this is great, but it's really just Shinsuke like doing Shinsuke stuff when he cared.
Yeah.
But like the actual physical moves, usually when you watch a guy and it's like you're watching the throwback thing from 20 years ago, and then you know that their prime doesn't come for probably another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, okay, I can see where this guy he developed a ton in the ring between those two. He looks the same to me in the ring, at least.
Yeah.
Like his character definitely got better. And like you said, once he stopped being Super Cena, that was way better. Like the U.S. title thing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like ring-wise, man.
Ring-wise, well, one thing he did develop in the ring is the 5 moves of doom, because right now it is the precursor. It is the 4 moves of doom, which is a clothesline, back elbow, side slam, and then 5-knuckle shuffle. So nothing of the 5 moves of doom minus
it was like Taz's high voice. It was uncomfortable because like, hey, that's not what I'm used to.
Yeah, this was all. It felt very. You said it earlier, the Mandela effect. Like I felt like in some universe, this is the 5 moves of 4 moves of doom, but it's like, oh, this is it, huh? Like I don't. It doesn't feel right.
It's crazy because it's so ubiquitous now that like Punk can like tease it by doing a single motion, and everybody's like, he's going to do the 5 moves now. Like we've seen it so many times. It's like
and
anything besides that is like, it's weird.
Yeah, it's nothing. Booker T comes back, fires back up, sets up his scissor kick finisher. John Cena simply steps aside.
Yeah.
Booker T agrees to get on his shoulders for reasons.
Interesting.
And John Cena does his second FU of the match, and he gets the win.
Yeah. Again, crowd goes ape shit. They love him. Like, absolutely love him. Despite the character being kind of unlikable and him not being great in the ring. Yeah. He's like the most over thing on the show.
Yeah. Would you say you enjoyed this match? That's what I would say.
My thought was, in the note I made was, I really would have liked this better if it was Booker T and RVD one-on-one with half the time.
Yeah.
Because it went like 20-something minutes.
It went 15 minutes.
Oh,
52
it felt like
seconds.
20-something minutes.
Underwater.
But that's still too long for, do RVD versus Booker for 10.
It's also
to kick
odd.
the show off. That's a hot start. Like,
half the time. Funny you mentioned that, because when I was watching, I'm like, this is really long for an opening
for
match.
an opener. It was because Cena was so over.
Yeah.
Though. I mean, the crowd was hot.
But also, too, this was an elimination match, which also struck me as odd. But then, in my brief amount of research, I think I saw that he wrestled all 3 of them on a prior SmackDown on the same show and beat all of them one-on-one, which kept him over. Like, people still cheered that.
And, burying the crap out of him.
Yeah. And then they just like, hey, we're going to put them all together.
Yeah. Oh wait, 3-on-1?
No, 3 individual matches.
Okay.
Yeah,
but in one,
I believe it was on one SmackDown. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I believe I read.
I can't imagine why we got tired of John Cena.
We didn't know yet.
No,
we didn't know yet.
That's a little indicator. It's a little foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Vince did
because he just won the U.S. title a couple months ago at 20.
Yeah,
he beat Big Show, right? So like, we all loved him still.
Yeah,
it was like, wow, this is I remember thinking like this. Him and Mr. Kennedy, I remember seeing, and like those guys are completely different.
Yeah,
like this is cool. I hope that
I loved Mr. Kennedy.
Loved him.
Was he personal demons? What got him booted?
I think he was injury prone.
Oh, was that it?
I think
so. I knew he was injury prone.
Yeah.
But like,
and I think
I thought that guy had a super bright future.
My
back in
God,
his WWE days. Like,
he was so good. He just looked so different, and I don't know. It was just a completely different thing.
I'm a sucker for that. Like. That kind like Enzo too, like, but the Mister, I love that because then I can yell it in crowded spaces and get attention because I'm a little baby,
like RVD after he's recovering from a frog splash.
My little feet up. So after the match, I think there's a backstage segment in between every single match on this show too, which is something that stood out. But we cut to Charlie Haas talking to what I think was his girlfriend, Jackie Gata, at the time, who's like also just in underpants because every woman on the show is just dressed in underwear.
Red, white, and blue.
Yeah, red, white, and blue underwear. And babyface John Cena walks by and like in his very babyface way, hits on Charlie Haas's girlfriend right in front of him. Insinuates that he has a big dick, and then tells Jackie Gay to hit him up on the two-way, which I don't know what the fuck that is. Like a Nextel, like a is that what he's talking about?
Oh, maybe
that era.
Yeah.
But like, what a weird thing.
I don't think a lot of people had Nextels back then. That's a weird.
Like, I had one because I drove a truck.
Yeah,
like
you had one as an employee.
Yeah, exactly.
He says so. He walks by. By the way, they congratulate him. They're like, hey,
I forgot. I should have. I said
congratulations.
Charlie Haas was like, hey, John, nice match. Yeah. And Cena's like, fuck off.
He turns
and Jackie
around.
Gate's like, seriously, dude.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, that's a girl.
And then he goes, thanks, doll. You're looking good. You know I got the belt, but I also got glup below the belt.
Yeah.
He merged some words together.
He fucks up two lines here, which was the most
two-way.
uncharacteristic Cena thing. Sorry.
And then, no, you're fine. And then he walks away, and Charlie Haas turns to her, and he goes, well, anyway, you do look beautiful tonight.
Yeah, like an adult. He was just like, yeah, we just have to deal with this fucking toddler who walks back, says stupid shit, wears his chain and thinks he's a rapper or whatever, like right back to normal. But it was jarring. They were like, hey, nice match. Hey, even actually that fits that narrative too, because it was like, good match, big guy. And then he comes over and says, I got a big dick. Hit me up. Like next to her husband. Like, oh yeah, I see why he's a big babyface.
I was going to say also, this is not a heel.
No, I don't like he's the most over babyface in the company. Yeah. Like, what? You're a douchebag.
Moments ago, I was saying how much I loved him and how refreshing he was as a character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, John Cena's like that throughout his career. There's times when most of us, I think, have like hated him or appreciated it. I've never loved Cena, but there's been times that I currently today because of all the work he did, throughout his life with the charities and everything. And I also, now I think that like he might have like a personality disorder or something, which leads him to be the way that he is, which is easier to accept than like just you're being kind of a douchebag kind of thing. But like, I think every wrestling fan has some of that, like, oh, this guy, but like, I appreciate him. He's done good stuff and like personal life and on screen, but he also did horrible things like ruining wrestling for 10 years. And that wasn't all him, but
but he was there. He was on the team.
He was the guy that was doing the actions. It was Vince, but it was the guy that Vince worked through that like make wrestling unwatchable forever.
If you muted him and watched him, if you like, I loved the Thugonomics. I loved the theme song, and you like how he came down.
I think I did too back then.
His presentation was, that's why I loved him. Like back then, I'm like, this guy's presented so different, and he was such an awkward worker.
Yes,
and like I'm like, this guy's just so different.
Back then, I didn't give a shit that much.
And then I was reminded of shit like this, and I'm just like, oh, this makes me not like you.
Well,
anymore.
There's a bunch. I mean, like I can go back and watch some stand-up stuff from this era too. That I'm like, I laughed at it then, but not now. Like
that's yes. Let's leave it at yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like that's a different, but like no, it's not kosher.
That kind of stuff is just time change, whatever. Like, and Vince was extra bad at that kind of shit.
Right.
But him specifically, Cena specifically, he had a ton of charisma. Like he had it, and he was different. Like because I remember liking him at this time. Now I look back and I'm like, oh, I did, I guess.
Just like I ain't worried about Booker T. That dude hangs out where the cross-dressing hookers be. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's gold dust. He's a former Intercontinental champion. What are you talking
He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, dude.
Yeah. His brother's main eventing WrestleMania. But like 20 years ago, like he didn't know. We didn't know. We didn't listen.
But the weirdest thing to me was Cena flubbing. He flubbed his line when he was trying to like hit on Jackie Gata, and then when he was walking away and he did the throwaway line, he like flubbed his line again. Yeah. Like I don't remember him ever. That's one thing he never did was like step on himself or flub his lines.
Wordsmith.
Yeah, he like even today he hops back in there and he's better. I mean, The Rock is like better at making me give a shit, and he's like more awesome at being on screen and talking.
Yeah.
But Cena was better even than The Rock at like just never screwing up his lines. He was such a maniac about everything, like his prep and stuff. Now I can't remember him ever screwing up a line. He did it twice in this thing.
Maybe he did it a lot more, and we just are, because we were so
the guy he became
pounded over the head with him that like, oh, we're just used to him being awesome at everything he does.
Yeah.
So, well, we're about to see Baby John. The more we do these review shows, but so after that, Kurt Angle comes wheeling in, and he kind of chastises Charlie Haas.
I think this show really could have used some Kurt Angle being healthy and working.
Yeah, so he was hurt. Did you know why he was in a wheelchair?
I did read something about it, but I can't remember if the story was.
He got thrown off of a stage. The Big Show threw him off the stage.
Oh.
And that's how they storyline got him in a wheelchair. And if you do yourself a favor tonight, do one thing. They show a shot of Kurt Angle lying on the ground after being thrown off the stage, and he looks like one of the white outlines in like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like his arms are fine, his one leg is fine, but then his one leg is like completely bent the other way.
Got his legs akimbo,
and he's not moving at all. It's just, like, it made me laugh out loud because I wasn't expecting it. But that's storyline wise why he's in a wheelchair.
Was he hurt for real? Did we know?
Yeah, he was hurt, and they couldn't do anything.
Could have been like this was personal demons era, Kurt Angle. So like he
had
was he on suspension and couldn't wrestle or like hurt or whatever?
We only had him for a little while longer. We only had him for 2 more WrestleManias, which was a bummer.
He did. Hey, if you ever go back and watch his TNA, it's weird. It's kind of weird, difficult to watch because he's got the 1,000-yard.
His Darby Allin
stare, but like like you can tell he's on some heavy duty stuff, but he's also doing incredible work. Yeah. Like his match.
Well, it's impossible.
Quality went through the roof.
It's impossible to get tired.
True, and then you got you got coked up Kurt Angle. Although, according to the Joe Rogan interview, it was definitely pain medication that he was doing. Yeah. He's 90 a day, I think he said.
It was several dozen.
Yeah.
By his own admission.
But you got 2005 Kurt Angle in Samoa and young Samoa Joe. You're going to have great matches,
right?
We got
so he wheels in.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. And can't believe how far Charlie Haas has fallen since he has been a part of the world's greatest tag team.
Doesn't feel like it's been that long. But
no,
boy, not a lot of respect for Charlie Haas here.
No, it's been one WrestleMania because they came out with him at 19.
Yeah,
and it is just after 20 now. Charlie Haas used to be Kurt Angle's protege. He had so much potential, but now he's hanging out with John Cena, flirting with Miss Jackie. He used to care about nothing but wrestling.
I wouldn't call that hanging out, by the way. Being bullied by toddler John Cena.
What he's legs. Haas says he could care less, which I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's not, you said it the other way around.
The only time anybody's said it correctly on TV in the last 30 years.
You had one line, sir. Angle says Haas is mouthing off to him, which is a huge mistake because Angle has a bigger and better protege, Luther Reigns, who he promised a match tonight. And guess what? It's going to be against Charlie Haas.
Yeah.
It's going to be against Charlie Haas tonight.
So we get a impromptu match on a fucking pay-per-view. Oh. What?
Because
right now. It's right here right now.
So how many matches were booked? There were, I think, 3 matches that were booked because of something that happened on SmackDown, which was 3 days prior to the pay-per-view.
240,000 buys.
But they tuned in to see Sable in a hot tub.
Yeah. Next week, cut to Sable in underwear and a hot tub. It's talking like, my only note was, I don't even know what she said. Talking like Sable talks.
Yeah.
She always had that thing.
I never got it. I was never a Sable guy.
What do you mean, guy? It's big. She had big
but
boobs, and Vince likes.
No, but me, that. I was a Sunny guy.
She wasn't a performer. Yeah, but Sunny was a performer.
No,
Sable was like a hot wife of a wrestler that
really,
Vince was like, "You come over here,
time out,
put you on TV."
I was not a Sunny guy because of how well she worked in the ring.
No, I mean performer. Like she was an incredible talker.
Oh, I see what
character.
You're saying.
She was trying to be on television. Sable was Mark Barrow's wife, who Vince saw and was like, I'm putting you on TV in your underwear.
Yeah.
And like she was like, I don't know, she's probably like a used car salesperson or something. Until then, she was not a person that was trying to be a performer.
Right.
And she never became really a performer. She was just like a lady that had the like body proportions that Vince McMahon liked.
Yeah.
So he put her on TV nonstop.
Never got it. Never got it. And this is after I believe she sued the company. So she's back.
Oh, damn.
I
Really?
believe so. Because I know she went away for a while and she came back.
Macho Man's the only one that never came. Vince never brought back. And we don't know what happened. Yeah, we know what happened. There's only one thing you could do to like for Vince McMahon to never bring you back.
Yeah.
And Macho did that, I think.
So basically, Sable is in a hot tub to tell us that the Divas will be hosting interviews from the Great American Bash from the hot tub throughout the show. And we see handfuls of it throughout the show. She also says that she's going to have a match with Tori Wilson tonight.
Yeah, a match.
So this is now within the same 30-second span, we get 2 matches added to the show.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's 2 impromptus.
Yeah.
One between
a
fitness model and some guy's wife.
Hang on. I might be misspeaking. It's very possible that they set up the Sable Tori match prior.
It did feel impromptu. Now
right?
that you mention it, though.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't have wrestling gear or anything. Like
no.
It was just I didn't hear a word she said. Because Sable
I wrote the whole thing down. I don't even want to read it because it was nothing of substance.
Yeah. We got Luther Reigns with Kurt Angle versus Charlie Haas next. Got a couple things. Luther Reigns, this is one of the guys that I was like, I kind of remember, but I didn't really remember him very much. And my initial thought was he looks exactly like a cop whose body cam like malfunctions nonstop. Like somehow, quote unquote, like he definitely has that like that look about him. Like, yeah.
I wrote Luther Reigns has a big face.
Yeah, yes, he does. Yeah,
he has a big,
both are true. Yes.
Stung by a bee, swollen face.
Well, I think that's part of the cop look. Like they
get stung by
drinker.
bees a lot.
Well, they get puffy face from being drunk. So a lot of the time, they like the the puffy red.
Yeah.
I know because I used to get puffy red face back in the day. Mm-hmm. I was not a cop, nor did I have any reason to wear a body cam, but I did get puffy red face, which Luther Reigns does absolutely have.
Not a good look.
He has the intensity of a person that really likes interrogating people of color. Too, like, or he might be a great guy,
or sticking his hand in beehives and seeing what happens.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's also true.
This was dog shit.
Yeah, my next note was Luther Reigns sucks balls. Charlie Haas was never great.
He's got the charisma of a vacuum cleaner.
Oh no, terrible! Like in that way.
It's
but
terrible.
I remember thinking of him as like I think it was because he was next to Shelton Benjamin, and we were told that he's like Kurt Angle's guys. It was really Shelton was great,
right?
And Charlie Haas was just like
a
passable hand, and he had zero personality.
Yeah.
Which they seem to be playing into his lack of anything on the show because they had John Cena in on his girlfriend right in front of him, and he was like, anyway, just continued. But this match is zero. It was one of the few things on the show that had zero crowd heat too. But I did not enjoy watching this.
One thing I did like is the finish. Luther Reigns had a dope finisher.
He did. I do have a couple of things too from the heart of the match. Not really directly like move for move stuff, but Taz, my favorite line of his was from this match. Michael Cole said that Luther Reigns might have butterflies because he's like a newer performer. He's Kurt Angle's trainee, and Taz is like, I don't think he has butterflies. I think he eats butterflies.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm used
he's
by
eating
that.
bugs. That's why he's so swollen.
That's good. Yeah, good point.
Me and Taz are on the same.
Other note just was, why is this on a pay-per-view? This feels like a nothing SmackDown match, like a time filler or whatever. So then I had to look at Luther Reigns' history to figure out what his deal was, because he just looked like a power plant guy, one of those like nothing guys that has a body. That's it. And it is what he was, but there was some amusing stuff from his history.
Do tell.
So Matthew Robert Weiss, also a cop name.
Yeah.
That's Luther Reigns. The way he started off in wrestling, and I was proud of myself for this, upon completion of his training, in the power plants. Is exactly who was a power plant guy.
Nice.
Weiss started his wrestling career as an enhancement talent in WCW in May of '97 using the ring name Horseshoe, Horshu. To complement the name, his hair was shaved into a horseshoe pattern, and he would always try to work the word shoe, which is for Wikipedia was written SHU for some reason, into all of his promos. Most notably spawning his catchphrase, "There's no business like shoe business, baby." I don't know why Luther Reigns never became a big star.
Because they didn't let him keep the gimmick when he got over to the Fed.
Honestly, it would have been a lot more fun to watch Horseshoe versus Charlie Haas.
I would have loved to watch
than like kind of mean-looking cop guy.
Well, I mean, they did shoehorn him into this fucking show, so.
Kurt Angle audibly said, "This match is taking too long." I was like, I agree with you, Kurt. He was trying to tell his protege, "You need to hurry it up and get it over with." But I was like, no, Kurt, I agree, 100%.
Good, you were listening way harder than I was watching. That sentence doesn't add up.
Yeah, they know what you're talking about. You're right, though. His finisher
was cool.
Cool finisher.
Yeah, it was a scorpion death drop that twisted into like a crossroads at the very end.
Yeah, and it was snappy, too. Like, it looked impactful.
I enjoyed it.
I was surprised by it because I was like, this is dog shit, this is dog shit, this is dog shit. Oh, cool move.
Maybe no one has done it since because then they'll have to be like, not since Luther Reigns.
Not since Horseshoe in 1997.
Yuck. 7 minutes, 11 seconds of this travesty
of a time filler SmackDown match.
Backstage with John Bradshaw Layfield after this.
They, by the way, not really referring to him as JBL. I mean, I put JBL in my notes, but like John Bradshaw Layfield almost every single time at this point.
Maybe he wasn't JBL yet.
I don't think that's what I mean. I don't think that they
figured it out.
Done the shortening thing yet. They were doing we're really leaning into like the racist guy, stuffy douchebag.
Maybe
so
they
I think
were
the
going
John Bradshaw Layfield thing did probably work better.
Like the three, because you ever notice like famous, like what is it, serial killers or like Lee Harvey Oswald or John Wayne Gacy, like they have the 3-name thing. You think maybe there was some of that?
Could be.
Maybe
like
he wasn't
makes you feel more
he wasn't like a
guy.
criminal to that level or at all, but
that we know of.
Yeah. Oh, I think we would have found that one out. Although Vince McMahon, am I praying Vince McMahon goes to court? Yeah. The amount of stuff that would be said on public television, woo! That is completely adjacent or next to this JBL conversation. It's just kind of a tangent. I'm not implying JBL is going to be out on national television.
He might have done horrible things.
Maybe.
I mean, we know he was like a douchebag, so he might have done worse things than that.
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt here. But backstage promos, basically, the gist of it is he's upset that he is a great American hero, and he should have got a hero's welcome, and he did not get one, and he is guaranteeing that he becomes WWE champion tonight.
That was one of my standout things from I'm like, that's weird for a heel to do the guarantee thing. That's just historically, that's almost always a babyface, I guarantee, especially if they do then win the match. Yeah. It's almost always a babyface thing to do the I guarantee I'm going to win, and then they win. I don't really have a feeling about that one where just historically that's the way it usually is. It's just like one of those wrestling things. My notes from JBL is JBL backstage promo, just putting himself over the whole time. He's got a big pimple on the tip of his nose that I can't stop staring at. Why isn't there a makeup person taking care of this? For some reason, when he says the words "my rules," this is where he does it with the jump. And my rules out of nowhere. Like, all right, you're laying it on pretty thick already, JBL.
Maybe he just has big teeth and like he's got a hard time getting words out.
Seemed like he was speaking pretty flawlessly up until his "my rules," and he did drop 2 different "you peoples" in this promo too. So yeah, JBL lays it on pretty thick here.
When it comes to the guarantee thing, do you want to hear how dumb I was as a child?
Sure.
This is wrestling related. So.
I was a Hulkamaniac, dude.
Like, no, this was actually like a vivid life lesson that I got, all pertaining to started with wrestling. So it was the In Your House International Incident pay-per-view.
All right.
And the finish of the pay-per-view was a 6-man tag match, and it was Shawn Michaels, Psycho Sid, and the other person, and I think Ahmed Johnson, against Camp Cornette.
Sid and Ahmed Johnson in the same ring.
It was supposed to be.
How did everybody not break their necks?
It was supposed to be the Ultimate Warrior, But but he like bounced, and they like were publicly like, the Ultimate Warrior's not with the company anymore, and they replaced him with Sid, right? So it was those three against Camp Cornette. It was Vader, Owen Hart, and the British Bulldog. And prior to the match, they're doing an interview with Camp Cornette. They do, both 6-man or both the trios separately throughout the show. They're interviewing Camp Cornette afterwards. Or I'm sorry, prior to the match. And Jim Cornette says, "I'm so confident we're going to win. I guarantee it. And if we don't win, I will refund everyone their pay-per-view money." I am a child. I go upstairs to my dad. I'm watching this in the basement. I go, "Dad, you're not going to believe this, but you're going to get your money back for this pay-per-view." He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "This guy said if his team loses, they're going to refund everybody their money." And he's like, You're so stupid. And I go, I go, "Dad, I don't think you understand. Shawn Michaels is on this team.
That is a good point.
He is bulletproof." And also Ahmed Johnson and Psycho Sid. It's the most mismatched 6-man ever. And my dad's like, "Dave, let me give you a little lesson here. They're not going to voluntarily refund
240,000 people,
which has got to it's millions of dollars." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "That's part of the story. They're just," and I'm like, "Son of a bitch, that makes sense." And so I knew, as a child, that's the first finish where I felt like I had inside baseball going into the main event.
That's not. That's just. But yeah, you were being worked.
That's a core memory.
We all got worked.
But that's when I realized being worked is a thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. It's cool. But I was like 12, 13. I was like older than I think I should have been.
That's crazy, the amount of talent outside of Sid and Ahmed Johnson that were in that match, like the in ring.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Davey Boy Smith in his actual British wrestling days?
Negative.
It's wild.
No.
He's not big at all, but he's doing like Rollerball Rocco or like William Regal when he's at his best. No. Like, all that stuff. The chain wrestling, real difficult. Million moves upon moves upon moves upon transition to transition. All that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what he did. He was like hometown Davey Boy Smith or something like that. Doesn't look very much like what we think of as the British Bulldog, but he was like awesome wrestler.
Yeah.
Prior, he was always good, but prior to him getting all swole,
he was big.
Incredible. Yeah, he was too
bulky.
big late eventually to.
Yeah.
But he was awesome. But then Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels,
Vader.
Vader.
And Vader.
Did you see the picture that made the rounds this week? I texted it. My favorite wrestler maybe of all time, Stan Hansen and Vader at the zoo in Japan, I assume, in the the dorkiest dad outfits. Both of them kind of have too short, too tight polo shirts and 1980s little tiny John Stockton shorts, feeding ducks or something at a zoo together, 24 hours before Stan Hansen knocked Vader's eye out of his head in the middle of a match that they continue wrestling for 10 more minutes. It was just my favorite thing that passed through wrestling Reddit and Twitter this week was that by far.
I don't know if I can go to the zoo with someone if I know they're gonna pull my eyeball out of my head.
Sure Vader didn't.
They might have talked about it in the where all the gorillas are.
I'm going to potentially blind you in the next match.
Hey, just so you know, I think that's a bonobo. I might blind you. So JBL guaranteed that he's going to become WWE champion later. Also, we completely glaze over this. This is the Undisputed Championship belt, which I think my favorite title. I love this belt.
It is on my WWE Rushmore.
Yeah,
for sure. It's an awesome belt. It's an awesome belt. It was not over. A lot of stuff they did in the 2000s and even into the early 2010s, either overcooked or then later they did too logo heavy. It was just one big giant logo.
Yeah,
this was a cool. Felt like a wrestling championship.
It looked, and they said it was
classy
heavy.
looking. Yeah, it looked heavy. It looked like a title belt.
So I think this and the Winged Eagle title, the one Bret Hart had, I
saw one on eBay for a real metal one for $150 or something.
Where is
Winged
it?
Eagle.
Why isn't it here?
I looked it up when the White Sox released the limited edition White Sox championship belt.
Of course.
So then I was like, let's see what is going on eBay. See if, because it was $700 or something.
Yeah.
And then the Winged Eagle popped up. I'm like, $150. I'm I couldn't, but my wife would have been unhappy with me if I'd done that.
Just tell her it's a tax write-off.
But yeah, Winged Eagle's my favorite. I think I agree with you on that one. The old Intercontinental was I used to make that one out of foil and construction paper nonstop when I was a kid. Those are my two, I think, top WWE or WWF. But yeah, this one's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. The next championship belt, I did not love. The belt itself. The match was pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, the match was probably the best match on the show.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, whatever. Like, we know. I actually don't have a ton of notes on it because it's Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Chavo Guerrero for the WWE Cruiserweight title. I think Rey was the holder.
Rey was
right?
And the way Chavo got in the match is he won a 10-man battle royal 3 days ago on SmackDown.
Really? Yeah. Jesus Christ. Did they just decide they were going to have a pay-per-view the week prior? Why don't we throw another one up there? Like,
the only thing they had slow burning were to be fair, like the two final matches on the pay-per-view had been simmering storyline-wise for a while. I think they just had to fill the rest of the card, and I don't think they gave a shit.
Yeah, it was definitely like, I mean, the JBL Guerrero thing's like it's legendary. Huge. Yeah. That was awesome for the whole run of it, and like gave us awesome matches and great story. But most of the rest of this, it really feels like a rewritten SmackDown, Vince McMahon SmackDown episode. Yeah, like rewritten day of kind of stuff. But this was Rey Mysterio against Chavo Guerrero, so like we know.
I enjoyed the shit out of it. Like, it was a WWE Cruiserweight match.
Yeah. It was not quite as good. Now I'm learning from watching, doing these throwbacks, the Turnbuckle time machines. Probably would have been a better match if it was in WCW.
And if it was half the length. This was almost 20 minutes.
Yeah,
It was 1940.
Went real long for like a lucha.
A lot of rest holds. It was basically a cruiserweight match with a ton of rest holds.
Yeah.
That's
way more. Yeah, that's the rest hold thing. That's what I mean. Basically, you cut all that out, and it would have been the same thing in WCW, just without all of the rest holds. So it would have been like 11 minutes.
I agree.
With no downtime. My only note, because again, and I don't want to like wash over it, because it was very good. It was a very good match. It's just, it is what we expect. So you've seen Rey. If you've seen Rey Mysterio, he's great.
Yeah,
he's great. Chavo. It's great. He's a great hand. We know exactly what we're getting with Chavo. Taz did say, I don't think that they're, because Cole said they had contrasting styles, and Taz was like, actually, I disagree. I think they would. I'm like, no, you're being a little racist there, I think, Taz, because they're both lucha guys, but they're very different stylistically.
Right.
And I think Taz now, the way, because he's like a maniac, he like jumped down Shivani's throat for saying the name of a move wrong this week. I think now he'd be like, oh no, it's very much, that's like the Guadalajara style of like, but back then he was like, oh, they're both just lucha guys, so that's the same, right?
Yeah.
Like, that stood out to me. And then I also had the only thing that surprised me, there was they managed to have much less racism happening with two Mexican guys in the ring than they do on any other part of the show. And I was also surprised that JBL did not come out riding a lawnmower or some shit.
JBL?
Yeah, Mexican guys.
Oh, just during the match? Just for fun?
Yeah, they just like throwing in racism. Like, and this was two Mexican guys. That's all.
That would be ridiculous if just mid-match a guy in the title match just comes out for 5 seconds
than what we saw at the end of this program?
No. I'm not saying what you said is ridiculous. I'm just adding to it.
And as you pointed out in the past, they did the lawnmower thing.
Yeah, that was a credible group that they had. They did have a couple cool credit where credit's due. They worked an injury angle the entire match where Rey's knee was hurt.
The crowd was super hot for this too.
Yeah,
my memory, again, this is like Mandela effect. I was always like, oh, the cruiserweights. I knew they were great, but this was an era before I cared as much about in-ring as I do now as an old man. And I always thought like,
this is SmackDown 6 era.
They're not, but like the cruiserweights, I always thought of like, they don't get that over. That's why they don't get the main event or whatever. They were super over. Like the crowd was hot as shit for them. Vince just didn't like cruiserweights because he definitely could have pushed these guys.
Right.
They were super hot. So they were very much over.
Also, a thing Vince didn't like, not in this match at all, a proper tag team match.
Yeah. He hates tag teams.
Yeah. Rey, so they were working an injury angle with his knee where he fell outside and took a bump, landed kind of weirdly. And then at one point, Chavo Irish whips Mysterio into the corner, and Rey full-on collapses before he gets to the rope. I'm like, that's what would happen if your leg... I loved that.
Sold great.
I never saw... Chavo suplexed Rey, so his legs, landed in a tree of woe.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's a cool spot.
dope.
I never saw that. 619 turned into a half crab, which was a 10-minute hope spot, right? You could have cut that out of the match. And then the finish was a gory bomb. Chavo was trying to get Ray into another gory bomb, and Ray reversed it into a code red. Not the cleanest looking finish, but like
still cool though.
It was cool,
impressive, especially for back then.
Yeah.
This pay-per-view wasn't like particularly short. I don't know why they felt like, and Chavo and Ray didn't need a bunch of wrestles. No. They were Chavo and Ray.
They could have added more matches.
Just crushed it. Done a sprint. It would have been awesome instead of just a good match. It would have been an awesome match. And like you could have cut this pay-per-view down. It wouldn't have been hurt at all because it was 2:45 or something. Right. If it was close to 2 hours, I get it. Okay. Stretch, and like, yeah, I'd rather have these guys stretching for time, but there was no reason to do that.
You would think with like these bi-monthly pay-per-views back then, they would have. I mean, no companies, if they have the ability, they're not going to voluntarily give ad revenue away, which is the whole purpose of this.
Sure.
But you would think they would be like, hey, we're adding a show, so instead of it's 3 hours a month now with one brand.
Yeah.
And now we're putting 2 shows on, so now we're up to 6 hours a month. Like maybe we can cut an hour from each show and get it to
not
4
ad revenue
hours
because it's pay-per-view, so people are paying to watch. There's no commercials,
but they're sponsors for the shows and stuff. Like
that's true.
Stridex would probably be really upset.
But like, are they going to lose money?
How many pimple pads do you think Stridex sold from?
Oh my god,
WWE? You think
as many as what was you've mentioned it before? Vince's like creatine.
Oh, IcoPro.
Yeah. As much as IcoPro as they sold in the 80s, they sold Stridex in the 90s and 2000s.
Woof. Like Teen Spirit. Fun fact, Teen Spirit was a product. I didn't know that. Spirit?
Yeah, I actually remember that.
Teen Spirit was a deodorant.
That's one of those weird things. I didn't, like I knew that because I remember Teen Spirit, but then Teen Spirit, the song, supplanted it so much in my head, I totally had forgotten about that until right now.
So there was a smell of smells like Teen
that's
Spirit.
what the song is named after, but like it became so... It smells like Teen Spirit.
90s. What a time to
then
be
DDP, alive. Jimmy Hart aped it.
Yeah.
And tore it apart and made a shittier version.
And then it smelled like yoga.
Then he saved a bunch of lives. I got a caveat every time I give shit to DDP.
Bless up. Backstage segment again.
We got 4 perverts and Tori Wilson in her underwear in a hot tub.
3 perverts.
Yeah.
Tori Wilson is the 4th.
Sorry, yeah.
You're fine. They're all arguing if so. Who was in the hot tub is Spike Dudley, Kidman, not Billy Kidman.
Yeah, Vince is one name.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
And Funaki are in the hot tub. Tori Wilson's there in a bikini.
And they are all 3 dudes are acting like they've never seen a woman.
Well, before that, they are. Oh, you're right. They're prick waving. They're arguing, and they're like
they're 13.
If I was in the match, I would have won. If I was in the match, I would have won. And while they're bullying each other, Tori Wilson stands up mid-argument, and they all stop and gawk. Really quickly, Peter Gruner and Tori Wilson exchanged vows and became husband and wife July 11th, 2003. Peter Gruner is Billy Kidman.
Right? I mean, she did the Kidman's girlfriend thing in WCW.
Yeah.
Even.
So they're legally married right now. And this dude just agrees to angles like this.
Letting Funaki eye fuck her for
where
like a
Tori Wilson
3-minute segment.
And I watched their eyes, and Spike Dudley was like scanning her like he was trying to 3D print her later. And I'm just like, that's his wife.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I couldn't believe it.
I guess.
And then Funaki
want to impress the boss.
I get that. I guess. And then Funaki at the end goes, God bless America.
That I actually chuckled. Because it was like a line from Porky's or something.
Yeah.
Like the whole segment was trash, but Funaki made me giggle. He's got good timing.
So as Sable promised earlier in the show, they were going to have divas interview people in a hot tub. Tori Wilson.
This was not an interview.
No, this was not an interview. This was a
Tori Wilson uncomfortably standing there
with her husband next to her.
What kind of internal alarms must have been going off when like the producer or Vince or whoever told Tori Wilson, okay, now get in this hot tub with these 3 predatory looking motherfuckers. Like every alarm bell like built into her as a woman had to be like, no. That's dark alley shit if I ever saw it.
There is this, like, I remember watching one of the wrestling documentaries, and Spike Dudley was like a teacher prior to being a wrestler. I love Spike
Dudley, but like, you know what I mean.
Of course I know what you mean. I'm trying to soften the blow here.
Yeah, no, Spike was great. Spike was great. And they're just, again,
I'm not
following orders. This is all Vince.
Yeah, I don't know them
may as well
personally.
be 3 Vinces. Like, all this shit is just Vince McMahon.
Indeed.
And his weird relationship with the female of the species.
Yeah. And then they get the Funaki to have the awesome line at the end.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird relationships, weird relationship with nationalism too.
Oh yeah,
because apparently Vince thinks it's perpetually the '80s, where like you have to, like if it's a foreign person, like that's how they like.
Are
Vince
you talking about Kenzo Suzuki and his shifty eyes? I hate America.
and Hiroko. Like Vince forgets that like PlayStation's made like in Japan, and like their technology's like super advanced relative to the rest of the world.
Too,
but they all have to be like, I don't know, like samurai warriors or something.
Well, like it's pre like Seven Samurai, like the version of a samurai you'd get in like a cowboy movie from the 50s.
Yes,
yes, that kind of thing.
No, and it's not anything.
That's
like
the second Kurosawa reference that we've made in 2 weeks, by the way.
It makes.
I love movies.
I'm blanking. See, right there, I could have had the bare naked ladies line, but I miffed it.
They did find the one guy from New Japan who like sucked ass in the ring too, evidently, because
this was bad. So really quickly, it was Kenzo Suzuki with Hiroko, which is his lady sidekick, versus
dressed as a what do you call it?
Geisha girl.
The geisha girl,
versus Billy Gunn, 8 minutes and 6 seconds. He'd love to love him. He'd love to kick him.
I have
your
the
entire
entire song.
Go for it, sir.
So this is I'm an ass man era of badass Billy Gunn. Yeah! So I had to look up the lyrics. And they didn't disappoint. Better than I even remember. But it comes out to I'm an ass man. I'm an ass man. I love to love him. I love to kick him. I love to shove him. I love to stick him, so he's fucking people in the ass.
Yeah, that's right.
I love to flaunt him, so now it's his ass, I think.
Yeah.
I love to watch him. Okay. Back to their asses. Yeah. I love to pick him. I don't know what that is. He pulling shit out of asses?
Picking asses.
Picking his own underpants.
Maybe
out?
He's selecting them. He likes to select them, like pick them.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. That's a stretch. Song Jimmy Hart, whoever, or Jim Johnston.
Stretch him is not on the list.
You know what? That would fit better than like most of the.
Especially if you're stretching it.
And I'm gonna kick him because I'm an ass man. So I'm an ass man. Yeah. So many asses. So little time, only a tight one can stop me on the dime. Okay, that's a mouthful for it's like a Red Hot Chili Peppers squeezing in some extra syllables.
Well, lyrics. They both wrote their songs with crayons. Billy Gunn and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
So only a tight one can make me stop on a dime. Mm-hmm. I'm a lover of every kind.
Wait. Why aren't you singing?
I'm a lover of every kind. The best surprises always sneak up from behind. And again, mouthful.
The best surprises always.
Sorry, go.
No, you're fine. Because we're going to sing it the whole show.
Yeah.
The best surprises always sneak up from behind. They do not.
No, they do. No. Well, Vince, I'm sure, is like, they all want it anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the plot of every slasher movie is
fucking 6'5" ripped ass Billy Gunn sneaking up on women from behind to apparently stick them in the ass.
Yeah.
No, that sounds like a horror movie. Yeah. 100%. He's like a giant freak.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
I'm an ass man. Oh. This part I don't remember. I guess Billy Gunn never got like a super long intro, so maybe they didn't get to the buns of glory, buns of steel. Your lies won't give away the truth of how I feel, which is like a weirdly sentimental, like emotional line in the middle of I want to stick you in the asshole.
Sure. This is the part of the song where he said, hey, I don't care how good your ass is. Yeah. It's not going to get me to open up.
Okay.
It's not going to get me
the lies of your ass. So because he says lies.
Yeah. Your lies won't give away the truth of how I feel, despite... Like, he's saying the person with the ass is a piece of shit. And like, he's like, no matter how nice...
She's a woman in 2004 WWE, so she's got to be a piece of shit.
No matter how nice that ass is, I'm not going to tell you how I feel.
You walk behind me, I feel the heat. That's why the girls don't walk behind me down the street. Okay, that's a little sweaty there.
You walk behind me,
also doesn't make sense.
The heat. That's why the girls don't walk behind me down the street, because he feels the heat.
He feels the heat, so that's why the girls don't walk behind him down the street.
His spidey senses are tingling. There's somebody behind me.
I'm an ass man. And then just back to chorus.
Did they try to write a second? Like this couldn't have been edited. This couldn't have been like what they. Hey,
it was first take.
We got some great shit here.
Yeah.
I can't believe we one took this.
In the meat of the match, Billy Gunn does like a kung fu judo choppy super racist thing too. Like the dude he's wrestling, who I forgot his name.
Kenzo Suzuki.
Kenzo Suzuki. He's terrible, but he does like when they square up, he does kind of a martial arts stance because everything he does is like stereotypical Asian bad guy.
Everyone from Japan is a samurai. Come on.
But then Billy Gunn does like
because he's showing him who's boss.
Doing Dirk Diggler in the mirror at the end of Boogie Nights.
You can feel him walking behind him. His body got hot.
My other note was this show is exactly why everybody thinks that we wrestling fans are assholes.
This was an 8-minute match. 8 full minutes.
8 minutes
seconds.
Of just garbage too.
Yeah.
Another note I had was, yeah, Billy, tell him to suck your cock, yeah, because the crowd went nuts because he teased that he was gonna tell him to suck his cock. It wasn't even the DX chop at this point; it was just the I'm pointing to my dick, suck my dick guy. That's his whole thing.
Yeah,
but he like teased it, and the crowd was like, yeah, do it, Billy, tell him to suck your cock, stupid evil foreign guy.
Did you notice when he walked out, he like was doing a pose a cheerleader would do?
It's one of the few things I do remember. I think that's why they ended up doing the Chuck and Billy thing, because he did kind of have a
little flamboyance
kind of thing, like going. Yeah. It's an ass man song, and then he's like shaking his booty too.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of weird for that time too, because Billy Gunn being such a big monster of a guy, you'd think Vince would like go against that, having kind of an outside the box character.
It's also after The Rock kind of buried him.
That's true. So maybe it was just like, I'll make a joke out of you now.
Yeah, he was down the card.
But this really wasn't Billy Gunn's fault.
This match sucked.
This other guy's
These
terrible.
guys, let's say that Kenzo Suzuki was a good worker, just stylistically.
His career 3.47 on Cage Match.
So his career, they did make a note to say Kenzo Suzuki is undefeated on American soil. So I looked at when he wrestled on American soil. This pay-per-view was when? June 27th?
27th, yeah.
Yeah. He debuted on SmackDown on June 10th.
Jesus Christ. The build for this show was a week.
He debuted on SmackDown, defeated Scotty 2 Hotty. June 17th, 1 week later, he defeated Spike Dudley. The week after, he defeated Billy Gunn via DQ.
Jesus Christ.
So he's 3-0.
So
by the way,
this rematch too?
from SmackDown three days prior.
Yeah.
Because his manager Hiroku threw salt/powder. They couldn't decide. They kept going back and forth.
Japanese salts
in his eyes.
Just like baby powder.
They all have. They don't have modern technology. They all carry salt.
Even the Japanese guys from San Francisco carry that.
So when was
salt.
WrestleMania 9 all the way to 2004? Like if you have Japanese blood, you are throwing some salt.
100%.
Like that's the extent of creative that we have for
until we figure out you can blow mist out of your mouth,
or just hit really fucking hard, and be really good.
Develop
at your
strong
job.
style and like change the entire way that I look at wrestling for the rest of my life.
Like how are you not humiliated working for this company during this period?
Evidently, this guy kind of sucked in New Japan too, though.
Well, yeah, but he sucked in WWE too because he was a dog. He did a thing that made me laugh. He was like, Billy Gunn was on his knees and he did like a claw.
Yeah.
And like the crowd kind of got up for it. They're like, oh, is he going to like do a claw? And then he does a suplex.
Yeah. Like a regular
and it's like a real slow like
suplex.
Transition to get to the suplex. He does a lot of those nerve holds.
Real early 90s WWF suplex.
It's bad.
Moves.
It's bad.
And he won too, right?
He does the Miz backdrop for the win.
It's like the most mid-match nothing move ever.
The Miz does it every match. He does the backdrop and then he does it the neck breaker.
It's where he holds him in a with Scorpion Death Drop position, but then drops down only to one knee and puts his knee in the guy's back. Like everybody, it's like a new wrestler move. When you're learning, kind of thing. That's his finisher.
And that beat one of the New Age Outlaws.
Yeah.
One of the most over tag teams in the history.
Sounds like this dude was very much the evil foreign heel of the week. They fired through a lot of those kind of dudes from different places in this era. Yeah. But this dude is he's the only guy on the show that I have zero memory of. None. Everybody else, like Luther Reigns, Faker and Grill, there's parts of my brain that's like, yeah, I saw that guy or whatever. This dude I'd never seen before.
I remember his name, but that's about it. Backstage was segment next week.
Paul Heyman, right?
Yep.
So Paul Heyman, the wise man, has got Paul Bearer, Undertaker's manager, bound and gagged. Like, nobody's helping him. He's kidnapped, bound and gagged. And Heyman he's telling the Undertaker in the match that they have upcoming, it's the Dudleys, who are represented by Paul Heyman, who currently has Paul Bearer kidnapped, versus the Undertaker in a I don't know why match. But if the Undertaker, Heyman keeps saying if the Undertaker doesn't do the right thing, which is unclear.
Do I wish I counted how many times that was said tonight?
He's gonna kill him. He's gonna kill Paul Bearer, which is what he says. And at this point, I, in all caps, wrote, Jesus Christ, if I have to hear Will Ospreay doesn't sell, this is unrealistic. Wah, wah, wah. One more goddamn time. I'm watching a show from 20 years ago on the program that everybody loves. Paul Heyman just said he's going to kill Paul Bearer on TV. Nobody's helping this man out. No. Nobody tries to either. So, yeah, I don't want to hear that Will Ospreay kicked out at 1. Yeah. This is taking me out of it. Yeah. Relax.
Well, maybe if he was in a situation where he was going to be murdered in the most mafia like cartoonish way, they might, give Will Ospreay a little bit more love.
Generally, this show that we're watching currently is not like Lucha Underground, where they are like doing murders and stuff. Yeah. It's just a regular show, and then all of a sudden they have Paul Bearer kidnapped, like gagged, looking very afraid, and the man that's holding him is saying, "I'm gonna kill him if you don't do this thing that I'm gonna be vague about the whole fucking time."
Yeah,
like never specific stipulation, just do the right thing.
Do the right thing.
And if you don't, I'm going to kill this father figure of yours.
We're going to cover the do the right thing in the match quite a bit.
It'll be quite.
I did find it how comical Paul Bearer's gag was, as if he couldn't speak at all. Like, he should have yelled, "Her Royal Highness's match luggage." Like, like he could have said anything he wanted to.
My Undertaker.
He could have spoken. Like, it served no point. Like, it really. That's the thing that took me out of this segment.
It was the weird little gag.
That's it.
Well, I said my internals was this whole thing is weirdly and vaguely, but weirdly sexual. Yeah. Like, I think Paul Heyman's the right thing might be he wants the Undertaker to blow him or something, because he was like, the gag was more like the kind of gag you might use in like S&M kind of stuff, because you're not really trying to like keep your victim from being able to do anything. But it is also like aggressive looking, still in the mouth very much. So, and Paul Heyman's weird, like looking over his own, rubbing his hands together, looking over his own eyes, weird insinuations just made me feel like, are you asking for sexual favors from the dead man?
Well, when you buy giant plexiglass boxes, they come with ball gags or gags or whatever.
I forgot to mention, they did do a bunch of sweeping shots to start the pay-per-view of the ominous cement mixer that has been parked out in front of the.
Oh, we did skip over that.
The tunnel.
So not only are we in Norfolk, Virginia, which is a Navy town, so they have military vehicles, and it's the Great American Bash, so all that kind of ties in. America. They also have a giant ass cement truck just right size. Next to it.
Next to the entrance ramp.
And it's not the same color as anything else.
No, it's not themed or anything. No. It's just like they rented a big ass cement truck from like the local Caterpillar or whatever. Yeah. Like
it's just the gaudiest looking thing. And it's spinning the whole fucking time. Yeah.
They did try to make it look badass when they did this, like the swooping shots of it. And I'm like, this is a cement truck. This is parked out there.
Speaking of not vaguely sexual, Tori Wilson fought Sable next.
Yeah, so this was just a fetish video. This was just like a 1970s wrestling magazine, like order this mud wrestling apartment tape that I did with two ladies from my neighborhood.
Which was pretty much all women's wrestling in this era.
Yeah.
It was bad times for the ladies.
Unless you feel Kim, like,
you feel very soft. Yeah. Well, like, she's trying, but she still had to put stupid little outfits on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Bad time. I misspoke earlier. I said that this was an impromptu match, but this was yet another match made on the Thursday prior. And the reason the match was made is because Sable called Tori Wilson fat, and Tori said Sable looked easy. So, hey, let's have a pay-per-view match.
So we slut-shaming, fat-shaming two women that have like a disturbingly small amount of fat on their
Yeah.
bodies. So that doesn't make any sense. Neither woman is a wrestler.
No.
And bless her heart, Tori Wilson tried to do a few moves, but I couldn't.
And there was some psychology in the finish. There was some.
They tried. They're just not wrestlers.
They did a double noggin knocker.
Yeah.
Sable played possum for like a suspiciously long amount of time, and then she rolls up Tori to the point where Tori's shoulders are not on the mat at all. And the ref's just like, fuck it, I'm out of here.
Not like, oh, maybe. No, it was like not even.
No.
Not like a baby would be able to see, like, oh, the shoulder's not down. Like, didn't even look like a pin. It was just like a weird. I mean, the whole match was just them kind of weirdly laying adjacent to one another.
Yeah.
I felt bad for them both.
Yeah.
They just.
I don't even want to like shit on the match, but
no, I can't. It's not wrestlers. It's like like people crap on Maxine Dupree. Like she's had 5 matches or whatever. Oh, she's a wrestler. She's just 5 matches. Just don't put her on TV yet.
Yeah.
I feel bad for her. This is like that times a million because these are not even wrestlers. It's just girls that Vince thought was hot and put them on TV and then give them a pay-per-view match.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. They didn't want to be there either.
Which was made Thursday, 3 days prior. Ugh. Next, we see The Undertaker hanging out in a very well-lit hallway, just kind of pacing around in his gear.
Did we get Taker before?
Dawn Marie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but like it was for a second.
Oh, okay.
They just showed you he was still a thing. And then we got a backstage.
Make sure you know that he's not trying to save his father figure from the guy that's threatening to kill him.
Not at all. Dawn Marie is backstage, and she is standing outside the hot tub, also in a bikini.
Yeah, I just said Dawn Marie is naked backstage.
Yeah, she's interviewing Rene Dupree, and Rene Dupree says he was cheated in the United States title match earlier that night, but he's not going to get upset because French people don't get upset. They get even, and he will protest and get a rematch. Okay, and then right on cue, here comes the creepiness. He says, but as for tonight, I must say you're looking ravishing, stunning even. You have heard that the French are far better lovers than they are fighters, right? Would you like to see my French tickler? No. And then he does his dance, and I think the dance is called the French tickler, which if that's the case, that's funny.
Okay.
That's good comedic timing. I don't know, so I can't give him full credit here.
My note on that, just on that part. Yeah. Dawn Marie's naked backstage. Rene Dupree offers her his cock, then does defensive drills.
That's funny. Nunzio comes out with, who's this, Johnny the Bull? Who the hell was
I think this Johnny the Bull. I didn't, Vito or Johnny the Bull.
Johnny Stramboli.
It's one of the WCW guys that came over because he was muscular.
But he's a member of the Full-Blooded Italian, and Nunzio goes way harder in the paint than Rene does, which was off-putting to me because they worked in ECW together, they know each other.
Yep.
I would never ask my friends. I would never ask a female friend of mine to fucking, hey, we're gonna act on TV, and it'd be so uncomfortable.
ECW was that kind of stuff was pretty. They advertised Kimona Wanalea as titties to me for 5 straight years.
You're right. That is fair. But Nunzio says, Dawn, you really want to be impressed? Why don't you take a look at my size 15s? And he puts his boot on.
Super subtle. This.
Also not a size 15. He would have the most mismatched proportions.
5'6" or something.
Yeah. If on a good day, if he had size 15s, it would be comical proportions.
He doesn't. By the way, he doesn't say size 15s. He's less subtle than that. He says 15-inch.
He says 15-inch.
Nobody fucking says. You'd say size 15.
And then he goes, and Dawn, you know what they say about guys with big feet? And then he doesn't. There's no joke.
No, my note was he then insinuates that Dawn Marie is brain damaged.
Yeah, and she goes,
repeating himself 1,000 times.
Big feet, and she's like, big shoes, and then she has the aha moment
after he says it 9 times or something.
And so she's down.
Yeah, she absolutely is.
And then as they're walking off camera, she goes, "What size did you say your shoes were again?"
Yeah,
so she's just not. She shouldn't be living alone. If that's how she comes to conclusions.
I said Dawn Marie. Nunzio insinuates that Dawn Marie's brain damage, treats her as such, and then I'm pretty sure Dawn Marie goes off and fucks Nunzio in storyline because she went arm in arm with this weird ass little creep who just made the big feet, big dicks joke at her super loud for way too long.
It's not a good look. And then whoever the second guy was asks if Rene Dupree's shoes are a size 6.
Yeah, because Rene Dupree's still standing there the whole time. They show his feet, and I guess they just kind of small feet, but it's just
They're not
because he's
15.
300-pound man.
What size shoe does Shaq have?
Yeah, no, like Shaq was like a 21 or something, but
Right.
like I have like notably large feet.
Yeah.
And I wear like a 14,
Yeah.
14 and a half, and I'm like 6'3" and a half, 6'4" ish. Like Nunzio, like I said, about 5'6".
That's why I said.
So his feet would be like as long as he is tall. Sideshow Bob has.
He would have Sideshow Bob feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they really to focus in on it too. Like when he's doing the stupid joke over and over again, it's like a close up on his foot.
Yeah. Like we get it.
I don't know who this was for, but it says Vince. This is for Vince.
No, because they didn't wrestle or nothing.
No.
Like,
no,
this
there's
is-
nothing. I have no idea why Don Marie was there.
It didn't advance
And
anything.
Rene Dupree was already like he was on the opener. We're like almost at the end of the pay per view at this point. I don't know. Like no idea.
Why not?
Next
Next
had to get
week
your dick jokes.
we got Mordecai versus Hardcore Holly.
I got Gangrel versus Hardcore Holly.
The Pale Rider, which
Pale.
I didn't hate that
It's
nickname.
pale.
This match was made this past Thursday. It was,
Is the Bradshaw Guerrero? Is it the only thing?
and the Dudley Boys Undertaker match.
Jesus Christ!
Match was made on Thursday because Mordecai attacked Hardcore Holly backstage. Gonna have to settle it on the pay per view. People paid $50 for that.
I actually like the Gangrel Jr. guy, Mordecai.
Yeah.
I don't hate the gimmick. It's just he looks too much like Gangrel to have a supernatural kind of. It seems like I don't really remember this, but from what's insinuated is that it seems like it's like a overzealous preacher like kind of guy.
Well, he was supposed to be the guy that combated the Undertaker.
Yeah, no, not that. He did win this match, which I just assumed Hardcore Holly was going to win.
Yeah.
Because the other guy's a guy that I like have a very fleeting memory of seeing one time or something.
Well, I think he was done soon after this until he came back.
He couldn't have been around long.
Well, he came back as Kevin Thorne during ECW.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But I think like maybe one more match after this, maybe two, and he was out. I didn't research, and I'm not going to. When it comes to Mordecai, he did a cool thing I never saw in a match before.
This wasn't terrible. It was Hardcore Holly just beating him up
Yeah.
for like 2/3 of it.
I'm gonna beat everybody.
And then, yeah,
beat
exactly.
everybody.
Like, this ain't where I don't work. I actually physically assault people every time I have a match.
He had him
in.
He had him in the Alabama Slam. Hardcore Holly had him up in the Alabama Slam, and Mordecai slapped his sides, which I never.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a very practical way that no one ever tried to get out of that.
I'm
move
surprised
before.
Bob Holly sold.
Yeah.
He did just no sell and still hit him with the. Did you ever see the Spike Dudley? By the way,
The Alabama
taking
Slam.
the Alabama Slam. That took 6 years off his life. 100%.
Spike Dudley agreed to a lot of stuff that took.
Well, I mean, I've seen it in recent years. In that, like, there's like a kind of a famous compilation of Spike Dudley bumps.
Yeah.
That goes over a bunch of time. But the Alabama Slam from Bob Holly is the one that, like, among other Spike Dudley bumps, you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, Bob, relax. He's not like really your enemy.
He's got to prove something. He's got to beat everybody.
He must have
that story,
littlest
right?
dick in the history of human beings.
Do you not know that? Do you know the story where he was?
I read his book.
Oh, okay.
So, like, yeah.
Where he pitched to beat everybody all the time.
Yeah,
pretty
yes.
much? That's kind of the running joke.
That
of
was
him?
his whole. Yeah.
How is his book?
It's like an interesting psychological study of a person who doesn't understand human relationships. It's a good read and it's interesting because he just beats everybody up, beats everybody up, and he's so conditioned to think that that's the way things should be. Mm-hmm. That it's wild. But it's an interesting read. Like he's got something wrong with him for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a abuse thing that made him the way he is, or if he actually just has like a physical a thing. But he's got something going on.
Yeah.
Because I've read a lot of wrestling books and heard a lot of wrestling interviews. He's the only guy that was just like that way, and then openly talks about it. Like, yeah, I just wanted to beat the shit out of everybody, and I did. So
good. We all loved you for it.
He got a long, pretty fruitful career out of it.
That's true. That's true. They did a SummerSlam promo next, which I forgot.
I did have one. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Not to,
we didn't even do the finish of the match.
Not yet. Well, not necessary to bog us down. Gangrel Jr. versus Bob Holly, but the thing that amused me was Mordecai does a Razor's Edge to finish, and Michael Cole calls it a crucifix-like maneuver. I said because Michael Cole is an asshole. It's the Razor's Edge. You can't just say, "Oh, I don't know what." Like, oh, that's
Did you
crazy.
hear what Taz called
Crucifix. He just called it the Razor's Edge.
He called it a splash mountain bomb.
Yeah, but he also said Razor's Edge.
Yes.
And then he corrected himself because I'm sure Vince was in his ear saying,
God damn it!
but Razor, Scott Hall was on WWE TV 6 months before this.
He already owned WCW.
Yeah, and owned him, and the Outsiders had been back twice or something at this point. Just call it the Razor's Edge. It's one of your most famous wrestlers ever. It's just super famous.
Well, I mean, they couldn't even call the Code Breaker the Code Breaker. They had to call it the Recoil or some shit like that. It's like, dude, stop it.
But at least Taz made the effort to call it a move that I'm sure somebody else has called. It's that in some promotion somewhere. Cole always with the crucifix-like maneuver. Shut the fuck up, man. Stop pretending.
Vince.
Yeah, again.
Another greasy thumbprint on the history.
Not Cole's fault.
6.5 minutes this match was, and it was there.
Yeah, certainly was.
Certainly fucking there.
It's always kind of interesting watching Bob Holly just
do
a shoot fight.
I had no interest watching. I couldn't. Oh my!
It was a bad match. Yeah,
we haven't kind of touched on how difficult this pay-per-view was to for me.
Oh yeah, it took me
to
3
watch.
different.
Oh
chunks.
My God.
I couldn't do it all at once.
It was boring.
Because it's the bulk of it is like we've talked about ad nauseum bear. It's just the kind of SmackDown matches that you would have skipped on DVR or whatever.
Well, it was a bunch of SmackDown matches.
It exactly was.
90% of the show was booked 3 days ago.
Weird, big SmackDown for $50.
Like I was saying, they did a SummerSlam promo next, and they spoofed the Olympics, and I forgot how much I love when WWE actually cares. And tries to be funny.
They've had a history of great spoof ads over the years.
It was really fun.
It did bum me out though because I was Batista. I'd rather watch you than Mordecai.
Yeah,
and this pay-per-view that cost
he was on
$50.
SmackDown at the time.
Yeah, I thought so too. I'm like, why are they advertising Batista at me?
Yeah.
It was somebody else too that I was like, oh, they're good too. And, I can't remember who it was, but it was the ad. It was a good ad, so it was extra. Like you said, it's a big effort went into it. So it was an entertaining ad, then also with entertaining people that it just reminded me that they weren't on the show that we were watching currently.
But what was entertaining on this show was the Undisputed Championship match. Eddie Guerrero, who comes in as the champion, versus John Bradshaw Layfield in a Texas Bull Rope match. So the way this match came together is JBL beat Eddie Guerrero at Judgment Day the previous May via DQ. And JBL says he only did it because Eddie Guerrero knew he was beat, and he had to hit him with the title to cause the DQ.
Which match was the bloodbath?
I believe it was that one.
Was it that one?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was only.
Kurt Angle says he has no personal vendetta against Eddie Guerrero, but he's going to let JBL pick the stipulation for the match, and JBL picks the Texas Bull Rope match.
Of course, the lamest stipulation.
They do some good character work here with JBL that echoes good character work today. So the next thing they do is Eddie Guerrero, JBL gets in his limo because he notoriously he was driven around in a limo.
The big long horn limo.
Yeah, exactly. And the driver window opens and it's Eddie Guerrero. And so he's driving JBL around and he's kind of fucking the car up and he rides it into the arena and it's all jacked up. Dents everywhere, there's shit everywhere. And then more happens after that, but they're just trying to show Eddie Guerrero's being silly and JBL goes do you even know what a Texas Bull Rope match is? Just kind of do you know what the fuck I'm going to do to you?
Yeah.
And he's the only serious one. And I'm like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, I thought this angle, just all of it was great. I mean, these guys are great at what they do, particularly the character stuff on Bradshaw's side, and Eddie's great at everything. But yeah, this was the first thing that I was I sat up and took some notice because I'm oh, they care. They give a shit, and they're putting the effort into this. Yeah, I mean, I generally don't as I've talked about before, the only good Texas Bull Rope match ever was when Stan Hansen would not do the job to Lex Luger, and he said, "Oh, we're just do a bull rope because I'm not letting you have him pin me on TV."
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good match. But the stipulation for me in general is just like,
well, the fact that the rules had to be read on a cue card, which
I have a specific thing about that.
Go ahead.
Well, first, it's Tony Schimmel, and I forgot about this, but Tony Schimmel hung on to that like on life support hairline for way too long. He needed to give up the ghost and shave that. It's terrible, like hair club for men kind of bullshit. It was pretty like good hair plugs for dudes. But Tony Schimmel, like he kept that. I think he still has it. He's like a producer for AEW or something now. He's still got like his little ramen noodles barely hanging on top of his head.
It's tough.
But yeah, so excuse me. Tony Schimmel does the.
I like that was your note, by the way. Like I have a note about this. Like his hair looked like shit.
And you've seen my notes for these things. Tony Schimmel has to do an explanation to everybody, but I think they're like notes that he took as somebody was like quickly yelling at him what to say about the match, like right before he walked out, because he was kind of stumbling all over himself and didn't make a lot of sense. What he said specifically, I won't say the whole thing, but like the meat of the part that you care about is now the match. This is like over the PA. Now the match will start once both opponents are secured to opposite ends of the bull rope. And for any reason during the match, if one of the opponents becomes intentionally or removes himself of bull rope, he will be automatically disqualified. So that obviously doesn't make any fucking sense. Now the winner will normally be declared when he touches all four corners of the ring in succession. However, if the momentum of the participant, et cetera, which like bad sentence structure, but you get the idea. But that is important that at least from my perspective, the momentum of the person that's touching the four corners needs to continue, or if it's stopped in any way, you're supposed to restart the all four corner thing.
Yeah. And the momentum is determined by the referee, Nick Patrick.
Yeah.
Nice to see Nick Patrick. And there is a light for each participant. So when you slap the turnbuckle, your corresponding light goes on.
Very slow, delayed.
The
green or red light.
The referee and the light guy must have had a fight in catering because those sons of bitches did not sync up at all.
They didn't seem to agree.
No. And even the commentary is just like, why is the light still on? This is shit you thought you would see like in 1993 WWF.
Yeah.
Like
it's like when again, my daughter's 9-year-old basketball team this year. When the kids are like, why is the score wrong? They haven't changed it yet. I'm like, because you're 9 and this is some like 14-year-old volunteer. Yeah. That's how this felt.
Absolutely. That's a fair analogy. It's a very fair analogy. Match was really fun. I thought the match was fun.
Yeah, it's Eddie Guerrero and JBL.
And it was they made a point to say the ropes are both on each participant's left hand because they are right-handed. So they want to leave the stronger hand.
And Eddie did a better job explaining the match rules, by the way. Because he intentionally but unintentionally had the rope fall off of his hand, like mid-move, which then Taz was able to, because Tony Schimmel fucked that up, was like, okay, it's because it's unintentional. That's not a disqualification.
Yep.
Up until then, I was not sure what he meant by the unintentionally, but also like, okay.
Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero took 2 seconds and was able to explain that physically in the ring because he's a genius.
And they did it once.
Yeah.
And it played no impact in the match. So they went out of their way to whatever. They did not hype. They were beating the shit out of each other with this rope for a minute. Like just kind of like bottling, like just grabbing a handful and like using it as a whip. They did not highlight enough how many times they were each being hit with that cowbell as well.
Absolutely.
There was a loud cowbell attached in the middle as well. So it just wasn't literally a rope. It was a fucking giant piece of metal in the middle. And every time they'd whip each other, the bell went with it.
These guys were brutal.
Like, it was hard hitting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hard hitting. And there were some dope spots just with the rope. First one was Eddie Guerrero was upside down in a tree of woe. JBL goes outside the ring, wraps the rope around his neck, and pulls him so he's upside down, being choked upside down. I'm like, I
don't think I've seen that since in dog collar matches or anything like that.
That's a tough spot.
Yeah.
The tough visual. Another tough visual from this period. I forgot we're in the era of unprotected head chair shots.
Those are almost as uncomfortable to watch as like the weird rapey stuff that they do. The unprotected chair shots, man. It's like
there were a lot of them too.
Like
too many.
This entire feud, I like have memories of, and back then I was not really fazed by it because we saw it so much.
Yeah.
But I even remember back then being like, Jesus, guys, relax with the chair shots.
Yeah.
They're brutal. And it was like every match I think they had, every part of this was like those terrible chair shots to the dome. Like,
and the back to the bell, they were hitting each other in the head with the bell. Sometimes like specifically with it, with no hand up or anything like that. Just good stuff. It's
awesome. Like,
I enjoyed the shit out of it.
It makes you a little uncomfortable seeing those chair shots, but you're still like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah, but
they shouldn't do it, but it's awesome.
You can't stop it, so it's like,
here's in the past, whatever.
And it's like in the context of the match, like it's a fucking bull rope match.
Exactly.
Like it'd be weird if they didn't use the rope.
And usually, like they don't in bull rope matches. It just kind of sucks. Like they'll have the cowbell, but they'll just use it once or whatever, and then it's just essentially just a slow match, slower than a pinfall match. But this was better than that,
and it was practical. And like speaking of practical, like they used good defense. Like when one guy would get 3 turnbuckles turned on and needed to get that 4th, they would run to the other side of the ring and like hug the ropes to make sure like he physically couldn't get there. By the way, JBL could have won this match like 50 fucking times.
I mean, a bull rope match in general is like a real big advantage if you're 6'6".
Yeah.
Like especially if you're wrestling a guy who's probably like 5'10" or so. So yeah, and he could have absolutely.
There were several times where he was an arm's length away, and he just like chose to not. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it could, and like headcanon. It could be like the I want to keep on punishing this immigrant son of a bitch thing that he was doing the whole time. You know, he like very much hated Eddie Guerrero. Really only for being a Mexican guy, even though he's American, born in America. But it did fit his like piece of shit character to be more focused on that. Like, want to humiliate this guy.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I'm giving more credit, but I write some headcanon in these matches.
My favorite spot of the match was the end of the match.
Yeah.
Was Eddie Guerrero is tapping the turnbuckle, his light goes on, and unbeknownst to him, JBL's right on his heels, tapping his. So like when Eddie Guerrero touches one, JBL touches one. Once they both touch 3, then it gets fucking wild, right? And then like they're both kind of like making a mad dash or whatever, and then there is a finish where Eddie Guerrero leaps over JBL.
Yeah, JBL kind of backs into the corner.
And then Eddie Guerrero touches the turnbuckle and wins. I couldn't understand quite why JBL was just standing in front of the turnbuckle and Eddie had to leap over him.
Also, technically, every one of those times that one of the guys touches the turnbuckle and then the other guy does, it's supposed to reset.
Is that right?
Stopping of momentum. And also, they right before the finishing spot, they were both just stopped in the middle of the ring, which also should have been a stop. Like, no momentum happening there.
So you, as a referee, this would have had quite the finish.
It was a cool, like, bull rope matches are stupid. It's a stupid stipulation. This was I think a creative way for these two guys to book a finish that was more interesting. Didn't really fit in the rules. I probably wouldn't have had them repeat those rules before the match then to really hammer home that if the momentum is stopped in any way, it's supposed to reset. Yeah. You didn't have to say that before the match.
Momentum is up to it's up to interpretation here. And momentum can be held by 2 separate entities at once.
Headcanon.
So
both of our parts, I suppose.
Eddie Guerrero wins the match, and that's the end of it.
Except that the thing we needed on this show was a dusty finish. Super important to have the only really good thing get a dusty finish.
Why? Why? Just let him win.
Because you got to let the racist guy beat the Mexican guy because it's Great American Bash, baby.
Then
let him America.
Let him fucking win. Like, let him.
Yeah.
It's like a bullshit smile. I was also, too, and I'm not positive because I didn't go back to watch. I'm not positive Eddie Guerrero's hand touched the turnbuckle when he leaped over.
It didn't.
I swear they said they had to touch it. And like the implication is touch it with your hand.
Your hand.
And
but then JBL, the way that, so Kurt Angle comes out after they announce Eddie Guerrero as the winner, play his music, the whole thing. And then Kurt Angle comes out. Is the GM? Is that what he's doing?
I don't
authority
know.
figure of some kind.
Some kind of authority figure.
In a very long-winded way, explains that he's sorry. He wants to give you this win, Eddie, but JBL like back touched the turnbuckle first, which again, historically in bull rope matches, you got to touch it with your hands.
Yeah.
But so it's a dusty finish. You don't actually win. JBL wins.
Yeah.
Wah, 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 wah.
I heard that this Eddie just didn't want the title anymore. So like he didn't want to
really.
Yeah, he just didn't want to be champion anymore. So that's why this felt so like out of fucking nowhere.
It was weird. It's a weird
like
way
he won it in May, right?
Yeah.
In Mania.
Yeah, it was Mania.
He barely held it,
and everybody loved him as champ.
Yeah, and I think that's why. Like I don't think it was a decision they wanted.
Did he go on sabbatical or something after this? Maybe. Because like
I didn't look after. I'm not.
It's
sure.
weird. It was a weird end.
We'll have to watch the next.
Why not just have him like JBL have a minion there that does the cheats for him or something?
Yeah,
they didn't have to do a dusty finish.
It was
a goddamn dusty finish.
It was a really dog shit finish.
Yeah.
Like the actual finish was fun.
Yeah,
but like walking
the way it blocked
it back
out and stuff was cool.
Yeah.
But then doing the full celebration and like a 10-minute explanation. So then like JBL's the weird champ that nobody really
not necessary at all. How long was this fucking match? This was 19 minutes and 6 seconds.
I don't mind this being long either because I was entertained by most of it, and like really it's the only thing on the show that I gave a shit about.
This was shorter than the Rey Mysterio Chavo Guerrero match.
Oh, okay.
So
they really could have cut those rest holds out.
Yes, absolutely. So that was that match. So JBL is the new champion. He will hold the belt for 10 months.
Yeah.
They both only had one reign as
wrestling,
world
just as
champion.
the wrestling god era then had to be, right? If it's his only reign.
Yep. When he did
That's
some
the racist
goddamn
wins.
he did
God
some
bless America.
he did some goddamn fine work as a heel.
He
Like,
did.
I'll say it up
great
and
heel.
down.
Great heel.
Yeah, dog shit like character, but like that's how you fucking make a heel. And then they go right away to the last match, which is not the world title.
What the fuck was this? I mean, this is why the show is like on.
Panned.
This is the yete of this. It's the reason why it's on lists and shit.
This is the Hogan Black Eye.
The more I watch the stuff, Vince Russo, I don't love him, but he got a bad rap.
Yeah.
I don't think most of that bullshit was him.
No,
because it just continued to happen afterwards. Like
it's a good point. He was gone.
This.
Maybe
like,
he
and
like
the whole the Bischoff Russo thing. Watching that with the knowledge of what we have like now, yeah. Russo's an asshole. He's a terrible writer. I hate his booking. He was right of those two, and he was the right like in the ring cutting that promo at the time too.
Yeah,
Bischoff was being a prick. Like I would be going crazy too if I was trying to run a show and those guys were doing that. Yeah. I think Russo just catches shit because he's a big mouth and he doesn't like wrestling all that much.
And he speaks really slowly.
Yeah, he calls everybody bro too, which is really grating.
No, there's that guy in AEW that does it too. Oh, he's dog. He's dog. Undertaker fought the Dudley Boys. Dudley Boys are accompanied by Paul Heyman, who is also in possession of the Undertaker's urn. This is a handicap concrete crypt match.
Yeah, so he's in possession of Undertaker's urn. Undertaker's Paul Heyman. Yeah. I don't know why the Dudleys want to beat the Undertaker.
Well, I'll tell you. So the Undertaker needs to join Paul Heyman. Or as you mentioned earlier, Paul Heyman will murder Paul Bearer.
Kill your father.
Join Paul Bearer. The right thing to do, we don't know.
That's like the official stipulation is if the Undertaker doesn't do the right thing,
they say that
Paul Bearer dies.
They say that during Michael Cole he is uncomfortably trying to like phrase what the right thing is because you could tell he's getting notes from Vince at some point. And the right thing is like lose to the Dudleys, come aboard with Paul Heyman.
It's just, I think if your man's life is going to be on the line, maybe don't have like a up for interpretation stipulation.
But the only thing that was concrete that was put out is the right thing to do is to lay down. The Undertaker needs to lay down for the Dudley Boys because, and I shit you not, it will be a hell of a feather in their cap.
Yeah, that's what I thought they said.
That's what
I'm
they
like,
said.
What? That's the stakes then for this match? Yeah. Why didn't this last 20 seconds? Why didn't the Undertaker go, all right, I mean, like even if I had a falling out with my father figure, this is a match that has no repercussions.
No.
And it's a handicap match too. I'm going to lay down.
Also too, when did the urn stop working?
Because
they went out of their way to say they had the urn. And then it fucking didn't work.
I think it stopped working, and then it began working again after a big evil Red Devil, and he started being like more supernatural again. Oh, of course, he does have lightning powers in this match. I forgot. He's got Thor powers. So yeah, maybe this during his Thor powers era, the urn didn't.
Yeah,
was not like
his powers are so random.
They are.
They're so random.
Didn't really help him out either in this match.
So during the match, the first chunk of it is Paul Heyman and the Dudley Boys are making the Undertaker lay down.
They're on, by the way, on mic the whole time. Like Paul Heyman's just talking through this whole fucking match. Like he's up on the ramp. He's got Paul Bearer in a plexiglass cube.
Yeah.
With like the cement truck, like the mouth of the pour thing, the spout right over his head, so he's gonna fill it with cement. And Heyman's just on a microphone, like throughout the match, telling Undertaker a bunch of weird stuff. But then like Bubba Ray's also on microphone, like he's in the match and just talking on the mic like the whole time. Because
we need, as fans, to understand that the right thing to do right now is for the Undertaker to lay down, and we need to hear about it for fucking
like nonstop
minutes.
Yeah,
it goes on so long. And then one thing we glossed over as well, just so the Undertaker knows Paul Heyman's not calling his bluff, he fills up part of that plexiglass. He just fills it with concrete, like up to his shins.
Like would break your legs, by the way.
Yes.
Concrete, even when it's wet like that, is like super ass heavy, and it starts hard and like fast.
Yeah.
So like Paul Heyman would have multiple broken bones.
I imagine if it was actually concrete.
I'm sorry, Paul Bearer.
Oh. So they make Undertaker lay down. He does. He complies. And then
Which, of course he does. Why would that should have been it though? Like there's
any
sense.
This is
there's no stakes.
What's premeditated murder? Is that first or second?
First.
Yeah. This is what's happening.
It's premeditated murder. Yeah. It's kidnapping too, which is also like another 50 years.
And it's they're what is it?
Conspiracy to commit murder.
Yeah.
It's all of them. Yeah. All those things.
This is going to be like 9 counts, like per guy. Bubba Ray leans over. Undertaker is laying on his back because he's a good boy and he listened. And then Undertaker grabs Bubba by the throat. And then the match begins and the Undertaker fucks him up for a while.
Yeah.
Like it was like a nice little
Gotta
squash.
get my shit in.
Yeah. The Undertaker goes for old school at some point, and Heyman gets on the mic and he goes, "Bad dog, bad dog, bad dog."
Again, this like read to me knowing Vince and what we know about him and like the weird power dynamics of like this read as sexual too. Like he was doing a lot of like weird power, get down, doggy, down on your knees, doggy, Heyman.
And he wasn't he wasn't like the big dog yet. Like no. So there was no dog of, or was he yet?
Yeah, even if he was, Heyman constantly saying, "Much, get down on your knees."
But like you're saying earlier, you're trying to like.
I don't know if he did like the big dog my yard thing yet.
I'm trying to do some work for him here, and like I don't think they deserve it. But that would have at least explained the dog.
Yeah.
But it didn't. So he fills up the concrete. It's now up to Paul Bearer's waist. At one point, Undertaker's walking down the ramp, and he says, Paul Heyman's all, "If you get too close, or if you come any closer, I'm going to put more concrete in." And like one of the Dudley boys shoves him from behind. He's like, "All right, that's too close," which it was kind of silly. It made me laugh. Yeah. He put more concrete in.
Good performers, the Dudleys.
and they care. There's empathy because at that point, Bubba stops the concrete and he tells Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman's letting this fucking flow.
Yeah, he's absolutely gonna murder him on TV. Like live, does not give a shit.
Before the match ends, Bubba stops the concrete and he says that they can take care of it. The Dudley boys, the Dudley boys can take care of it, and then Paul Heyman can have his way with Paul Bearer. And Heyman, remember when Heyman yelled?
Pretty sexual.
Remember when he yelled?
No,
then train my big dog.
That's right. Yeah, it's like not sexual at all.
Why? Why? The finish was. Do you have anything before I get to the finish?
Beyond what? Where are the Norfolk police?
Or the fucking Navy?
They're on a military base. Navy. Like
this is breaking maritime law.
And also, again, it's kind of reiteration, but like when the cement is up to like Paul Bearer's chest, he would suffocate.
Yeah.
That would be enough to kill him. Yeah, it would kill you.
Absolutely.
He can't just hang out.
Also, he's not like the
cement.
fittest guy. Like
he was like 440 pounds here or something.
He's a big boy, yeah. So the finish of the match, Undertaker obviously wins. There was a choke slam to Bubba Ray, a tombstone to Dudley. I'm sorry, Devon.
Lightning strike.
Oh, we're getting there.
Okay.
I'll let you have that one. Paul Heyman gets on the mic and says, "I thought we had an arrangement."
I don't know why he thought that. There was never any clarity for any portion of this nonsense.
Not even once. "I thought you and I agreed that you would do the right thing, and it's obvious to me, sir." that you care about Paul Bearer. So since you won't do the right thing, I guess I'll have to do the right thing. And then Heyman goes to pull the lever, and
the Undertaker uses magic powers to shoot lightning at Paul Heyman to stop him from exploding. It explodes the area that he's by to stop him from filling the thing with.
It's always a shame he just never remembers he has lightning powers.
You'd think he would, like, you could use that. You could have been the all-time champ.
Yeah.
Just use your lightning power at the beginning of every match. Zap, like, that's it.
As they're coming down the rampway, he'd be undefeated. Yeah, he would still be wrestling.
Yeah. Yes.
And he would have no injuries.
He wouldn't have got bad knees and shit for no reason.
No.
Just use your lightning powers. And he wasted them here too, because then he walks over to Paul Bearer, and now they got a tight shot. Like, it's just
Paul
these
Bearer.
two now because he's lightning everybody away.
Yeah, everyone's gone. It's just Paul Bearer, and I got a tight shot of his face. And he goes, "Save me! Oh yes, you can save me! Save me, Undertaker! Save me!"
Now this kind of took out a sexual tone.
Yeah. Oh, save
I'm a
me!
damsel in distress, my Undertaker.
One thing we glossed over, which is going to be important in a second, is the obvious cutting. They clearly filmed actor Paul Bearer in this thing somewhere else at a different point.
Sure, yeah.
And because they never show
440
him.
pounds, not in any kind of health to be doing physical stuff.
Not at all. And then the guy that they have in the tank, they never do a tight shot of his face, right? And when they do show the tank, it's from behind. There's like a camera like in the tank. So you could see, like, it's because my first thought is like,
Johnny B.
there's
Bad shot from last week.
Yes,
You know,
yes, absolutely. That's a good analogy. My first thought is like, he's sitting behind, like they're filling something up, but he's behind it, so there's no way. But at some point, like, you see it on his jacket.
Yeah, you do see like it actually.
So maybe.
But why would that happen, Dave? The Undertaker won, and he's vanquished the foes.
Right. So because they explain once we say what happens, I'll say why he did it. But
they explain.
They explained it on SmackDown later.
Okay.
So the Undertaker does his Undertaker pose where he gets down and he does the hand thing.
Yeah, the goblet.
Then he gets a real shitty big tongue on that guy.
Yes, he does.
Wow.
It's like Gene Simmons.
Masterful tongue. Does his little pose. He gets a real shitty look on his face. And then they show Paul Bearer, who's all of a sudden very concerned. And you should be.
I would be too.
This is how the mafia took care of people.
I'm suffocating right now.
It's also in front of how many people?
Yeah,
it's
6,000,
it's
6,500 people.
Thousands of people.
And millions watching around the world.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to do, this was the main event of the evening.
To splice it back. You should jump cut it. Make it super obvious.
Good idea.
Paul, I have no other choice. Rests in peace.
What the fuck?
And then the Undertaker pulls
the fuck, Mark. He
pulls the instantly cooled lever because it was just hit with a lightning.
Yeah, it was electrified from his lightning powers a minute ago.
And we all know that metal doesn't hold the heat ever. So, and then he murders Paul Bearer.
Yeah. Fills him up with cement for no goddamn reason.
And in the worst cut ever.
The fuck, Mark? We came into this business together. You fucking murder me and Dorfuck.
Also, he just came back as the Undertaker at WrestleMania 20, as Phenom Undertaker.
What the fuck?
You know what? He was Dead Man, or he was.
Oh yeah.
Because at 19 he was.
Yeah,
he was riding the motorcycle.
He sucks. Undertaker sucks.
Yeah, he's fucking terrible. I was trying to think of his best match, and then I'm like,
it's like all Shawn Michaels.
Yes,
okay.
Look at who he wrestled.
It's again the John Cena CM Punk match was great. Yeah. You know why?
Because you had
one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, I don't know if Undertaker led a great match ever.
I don't think so.
Right?
I mean, he was in great matches, but because Shawn Michaels working his fucking ass off for 20 minutes, 25 minutes or whatever. No, I don't think so. He sucked during the Attitude Era when he was in his 20s.
Yeah. I never got
I don't know how he became a big legend.
He had a cool entrance, but even then, that's it.
Exactly. That is it.
That's
it. But you could have done that with that. Spike Dudley could have done that. And people would have been like, Spike Dudley, fucking legend.
It would have been cooler if Spike Dudley did it. Because it'd be like that Twilight Zone episode where the kid can do things with his mind.
Yeah.
Spike Dudley gets his dope little evil entrance. But no, they said that The Undertaker did this afterwards because
we get by the way no explanation on the show that people paid $50 for.
No.
Just ended with the guy that they were cheering for killing his father figure with Like, I don't know why did he wrestle then? If he didn't give a shit.
That's a great
point. Why didn't he even show up?
If he knew, that's a good point. Yeah. That would have been more fuckery, like, because then Heyman and the Dudley Boys,
at least,
like, then he's Paul Bear's dying regardless, right?
Yeah.
So like that's
obviously
it's collateral.
Everyone agrees they all want him dead.
Yeah, it's collateral damage at this point. But like then he's like in the head of the Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, why didn't he show up? Does he want us to kill him? And then they have to like actually do it. Maybe they don't.
Which
want...
they were kind of like reticent to do.
Yeah.
Taker was just like,
yeah,
we wrestle this match for no reason and killed Paul.
I am gonna burn my hand just to make sure this son of a bitch.
Also, he probably had a lot of opportunities to kill Paul Bearer over the years.
Yeah,
like,
but the reason he didn't do it is
hold
because
his like sleep apnea thing shut one night.
That's fucking funny. So they explain.
Shout out Jake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sleep apnea.
Yeah. Sorry, pal. They say that I didn't write it down because I didn't.
Because what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean,
the Undertaker needed to prove that if he could do that to somebody he loved, imagine what he could do to people he doesn't love.
That doesn't make any sense.
That was it. That was the explanation.
So, like, he's going to become a dictator of a small Central American country or something? What the fuck, man?
Because he also too. That's a really strange way to show how tough you are.
Yeah,
it's murdering people you love.
Taker's got some weird ideas about like manliness in real life. Even that, I don't like. It's like murder again. No, I'm more offended by the. Why the fuck did you show up, then? Why did you do any of this?
That's a great point.
Why is that? What are we here for? Yeah. What are we doing here?
That's like a great point.
What any of this?
Well, the original part of it, the only thing I keep hitting your light. The only thing I know is our light. No milk will ever be our milk. Is Paul Heyman wanted to like toughen up the Dudley Boys and say like, hey, you guys got to get a harder edge.
The Dudley Boys need a lot of time. The guys that like murdered 80-year-old women nonstop for 10 years.
Tougher edge. But the way that they decided to show that they needed or had that tougher edge was they kidnapped Paul Bearer, which is what started this whole thing. Yep. You're right to be silent because it fucking makes no sense.
Got to prove to everybody that I don't know. I would have rather just not ever found out any answer because that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Also, I don't need an answer sometimes.
So the racist wins, and then your other baby, you're the baby face on the main event, kills his dad.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. So the biggest face you have right now that doesn't look stupid is John Cena, who cut. He attacked everybody.
Who acted like a toddler.
Yeah. Like he's the biggest face on SmackDown.
I wouldn't trust that character alone in a room with a woman.
No.
For 5 minutes.
Just going to reiterate that 2 weeks prior, Triple H defeated Shawn Michaels in the main event of Bad Blood.
Imagine you like flip the coin. I only got $50.
Yeah.
And you got 2 pay-per-views coming up. Which one do I...
Well, I don't know how Raw
was pretty great.
I don't know how Raw was booked, but I hope they made matches prior to like the prior Raw because
it's wild how it's every match except for the 2.
One thing we did not cover, I'm looking at my notes here just for anything we might have skipped over. There was a dark match. It was Spike Dudley against Jamie Noble, and I'm sure that was a
great match.
Fucking banger.
That'd be probably second best match on the show.
I'm sure that match was amazing. Let's see. U.S. title match, SmackDown. Oh, wait.
Good thing we got that cut for Mordecai against Bob Holly.
Luther Reigns, Charlie Haas, day of. Rey Mysterio, Chavo, SmackDown. Kenzo Suzuki, Billy Gunn, SmackDown. Sable, Tori, SmackDown. Mordecai, Hardcore, Holly, SmackDown. 5 matches.
All the not just SmackDown, 3 days prior SmackDown.
Yeah. The only 5, 6, 7, 8. The only 3 that were not were the Undertaker match, the Eddie Guerrero match, and where are you? There's one. Is that it? No. And the Charlie Haas Luther Reigns match. Which was
good thing we had that
the
build.
night of the show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. That was an impromptu pay-per-view match.
How humiliating! But then we bitch about current wrestling. It's like, they have to get better about advertising shit coming up. It's infinitely better than it was back then. infinitely better.
And I'm going to remember that
When I
the
say
next time. Well, you don't really hammer that too hard. Like when you do, I agree with you. But
next time that they have
online,
a snafu,
the bad faith of the community.
Yeah.
When it's just like you shills, WWE shills, AEW doesn't like. Okay, go watch fucking Great American Bash 2004 that was booked all 3 days prior to the show.
Just who plays devil's advocate. They all Facebook was invented a year after this pay-per-view as well. YouTube, I believe, as well. So,
yeah, but I was online talking to these numbskulls in 98,
and you didn't watch this show at all.
Yeah,
and you would have been the guy to watch this show.
Yeah.
So
we had to lose ECW, and WCW had to cannibalize itself so we can get Charlie Haas and Luther Reigns in an impromptu pay-per-view match.
This is I didn't have fun with this.
It was terrible. So much. Last week's was so much better. Full disclosure, we were going to do a different pay-per-view, which I think maybe we'll do next week.
We can. We got to.
I think we're gonna probably dive into something that will give you guys a little bit of variety, but also Dave and I are gonna enjoy for this reason. Bobby Heenan's entire catalog.
Yeah.
So it's a good 10 or 15 from each WCW and WWF. Probably gonna start hammering those out. We were gonna do one of those this past week, but then I watched the show and I realized it was just too good and it was too similar to the show we did prior, the Halloween Havoc episode, because that show ended up being much better than both Dave and I expected.
1000%.
So we wanted to do something a little bit different, and this was very much different. This was dog shit and a slog to get through.
I didn't have fun. I can't say it enough. This was like homework.
It was slow, bad mid 2000s throwaway SmackDown matches interspersed with uncomfortable sexualized rape vibes.
Yeah.
Just nonstop. God bless America.
Yeah, the first time the WWE does the Great American Bash, I guess it's a memorable
Vince's
one.
idea of what America stands for.
God damn. Fucking Vince.
But it probably made for a better show, to be honest. For us, not for them. They made it for a dog shit show.
I'm not to pump ourselves up. I think we produced a better show today.
If we are not more entertaining than this pay-per-view was, we should quit today. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back again next week with Turnbuckle Time Machine. Should we tell them what we're going to do? Do you want to do that, or do you want to hold up?
Let's hold up.
All right.
Let's hold up.
We'll make it a surprise.
Make it a surprise.
But again, thanks for joining us. Our other 2 now Blue Thunder Pod episodes are going to drop right at the same time as this. We're separating the AEW and WWE aspects of the show, so you guys don't have quite as long a marathon to run through with us for each individual show. But thanks again, everybody, for joining us. We hope you do again next week on another episode of Turnbuckle Time Machine.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.